retaining structures. I've seen them as high as 30 feet or so.
What happened to that bulkhead over in Cake here a number of years ago when it collapsed? What was that? That wasn't this. That was just I-beam and then sheets.
I might be guessing a little bit, but I heard it was a solder wall. So an H pile.
Yeah, right.
An H pile.
Right.
And lagging in between. And I don't know if it was timber or concrete lagging, but you can just get some, that's basically beams and they just slide right down.
Right.
But there was movement and separation and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
And, you know, they might not have been restrained or tied back properly.
Right.
And when they opened up, then all the lagging flew
It
out.
just fell out. Yeah. That was a real pain for a little while.
Yeah, there was a big lawsuit over that.
Yeah, that was the same guy who decided that he would go ahead and re-drill some new holes in the plate of the crane in Teneke, the crane plate in Teneke, and only put 4 big bolts in there instead of like 15 or 16. I'm going, are you sure that's the right way to go? You got a lot of leverage out on the end of that boom, you know. Oh, that'd be fine, you know. And then I heard about his collapse. What's that?
They're big bolts.
Yeah, they're big bolts. You know, then he talked about, then I heard about the collapse over in Cake, and I went, same engineer. Perfect. I can just see these guys now in Teneke picking a 5,000-pound engine up out there, you know, which you're probably not supposed to do. Way out over there, you know.
Hi, John.
And then
Good. Yeah.
with just like 1-inch, 4 1-inch bolts holding this crane down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever even think about that.
I did. Oh, the base.
On the base, yeah. And when it had 16 holes already in it, they just didn't want to drill all those holes in the concrete.
I don't blame.
Well, I don't
That's
either,
too much
but
work.
yeah, that'll be fine. It's still like
There's
Teneke.
the Genesis.
Thank you.
Yikes. Yikes.
Good.
Was Ben going down to get the water?
What?
No, never mind.
I have cups. You can go over to the fountain.
Okay.
Hey, I want you guys to know I brought some beanies.
Look at that.
So, you guys, want a beanie? Hey, Dave, how are you?
Cold.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they're.
I bet they're poly.
Pass out the Dave.
Yeah.
Go over there and get your color. There's only one black one.
Okay, your gang is here. And
Okay,
you
nobody else?
can start.
Okay,
This is it, huh?
Yeah.
okay, call the meeting to order, and, present, on the board, Dave Tinas, John Burgess, Bob Martin, Jeff Funt, myself, and we have a few people in the audience. So, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, of adopting the minutes from last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, the approval of the minutes for the agenda that we have before us. Does anybody want to add anything?
Just under a item for discussion here towards the end of Mike on the what Bob Lind was requesting yesterday.
Coast Guard?
Yeah, Coast Guard. Yeah.
Okay.
Talk about the Coast Guard.
Okay, we'll put that down. Anything else?
No, at least it's on the record. Don't want to fall short of my my job, you know, being the liaison, you know.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I move that we approve the meeting agenda
As amended.
as amended.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Visitors' views unrelated to the agenda. Do you have any related to the agenda? Okay. Glow? Have a staff report?
Yeah, it's actually on the back page of your packet. Quick and dirty. Birch is on back. Stacy's on vacation. Eddie's scheduled to leave 6 sleeps from today. I don't know how we're gonna do it without him, but he'll be gone for 5 weeks. Nick is back after he and his wife had a little baby boy that they named Nick Jr. last month. Maintenance, we've been winterizing and just planning out our schedule, ordering schedule of materials and that kind of stuff right now. Drive down, it's been interesting. We've got a couple of guys on the list for using the reserve on the inside. We've had the Saga tying up there selling shrimp to the public. He reserves it a day ahead or whatever for $1 a foot. It's working out great. yeah, so things seem to be plugging away there. Middle Harbor repair project's complete. We just there's a couple of things we need to do. Life ring cabinet has to be installed and a painting of some non-skid on the bare hinge. I offered up that we could do this in order to complete this project, because especially the painting is kind of temperature related, and so we'd like to close this project out before May. So anyway, we're working on that. Working on the waterfront master plan. You guys have all gotten, I think, the emails I've been sending you the last couple of days, because kind of the latest and greatest. So we'll talk about that at the last end of the meeting here. And then we're preparing the budget for mid-January deadline. And the harbor's kind of busy with projects and people putting gear away and hunters. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Globe? I have one. What's happening with the sea lion haul out at the airplane float? Is the electric fence still up?
Yep, the electric fence is up. We're using Eric Rosewald's electricity to keep our battery and stuff up. There was a smart one amongst the crowd who realized that perhaps we could just move inland a little ways outside the parameter. So he and his buddies are now hauling up underneath the airplanes and those kind of things. So far, they're out of our little area, and I'm hoping, that the mannequins that we have in various places around the harbor, they're still putting that 2 and 2 together, because we haven't had them in the harbor on our facility. But Bob is having issues with them on the Petro dock, so perhaps you will see a mannequin over there. I don't know. We'll see. There's just so many of them. I don't know what to do.
I know. Dave? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I noticed when I went down to the drag-down dock the other day,
Oh, God.
there was an awesome bird call.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, so after 3 times
Scared the heck out of me, I
of
know that.
of cleaning the surface of our brand new beautiful drive down that everybody in town is so super proud of and is really, I'm like, what in the world are we going to do with all these damn birds that show up at night now and camping, because it's nice and light and the whole thing. So we got online and we found that there is a bird deterrent device out there available for $157. So we sent for it, and it's a little recording that we put down there and plugged in, and it was amazing. We plugged that baby in. 20 seconds later, they perked up, and just one by one, just took flight, left the scene, and and so we kind of left it on, and I think the neighbors were a little annoyed, but because we found that it had been turned off a couple of times. But anyway, we're still in training mode. Hopefully the birds will get used to maybe going to other places. I don't know. Anyway, it's an amazing little device, and it works, and we don't have a bird down there. It sounds kind of like a wounded seagull. So what it does attract are crows and ravens. So they come investigating, possible lunch date, and anyway, but we don't have the flocks of those. So
I think Eric has a book like that. He brought the cats to catch the mice, brought the dogs to catch
yeah. That's kind of what we're finding.
We just want elephants. So.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of, we're always trying new things. And
Well, I wonder if the sea lions are smart enough to, if we just put up a piece of wire around the other part, that they would see it and think that.
Hey, there
Didn't
you
even
go.
have to be
Taking another.
electrified.
Well, this is really DOT's issue. So I was getting ready to take the fence down last spring, and I got a call that said, "Hey, Glo, you know that fence you have? Yeah. You think you could maybe leave it up this summer?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And Etcher said, "Yeah, they're adopting your program in other places now." So apparently DOT likes the idea, and they're using it in other places, out of different towns and stuff. So anyway, it's I'm really worried about the harbor and the float, so I, but
Well,
that
it's a good
being
place to
said,
experiment.
it's a great place to experiment.
Have you had the sea lions on the drive down?
No, not that I know, knock on wood, I mean,
That'd be about
Be a
4
That's-
feet. of rail. They can make it.
but
They
they
can
can
make it.
do,
They
they
probably
can
could.
make the Kestrel float, which isn't as high, I mean, it's
No, that's not as high.
not as high, but
That's
They're
maybe
out
2
there
feet
every
plus
once-
the rail. This is 3 feet plus the rail.
yeah,
You get up on those Coast Guard buoys.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That's,
So 4
Second
feet's no
story.
big
that's not
deal.
a soft landing on
I
those
don't-
either.
yeah, so,
And then the little ones slide up on there's a penthouse. They get up on the
Yeah, that's right.
But they don't, I don't think they
On
come
the
up out of the
buoys.
water
Yep.
up there. I think they climb over people
Yeah.
when they get there.
Oh,
So-
yeah, maybe they get up on that pile hooks or the pile
They get on the
towers.
first
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So they slow you down a little bit.
so,
Out
yeah,
at Sockeye, they're up in the woods. They're actually up there in the dirt, in between the trees, some of them. And there's like 60 or 70 that have been up there for the
there's
last
just so
couple of years.
many of them, it's really getting to be.
Really. like-
So, in your spare time, you can engineer,
You know, the agencies are just, they're just.
It's getting worse and
Oh,
worse.
now it's 850 meters. Have you heard that?
yeah.
Minimum.
Well, AML, that's what it was at AML when they did their dredge.
Yeah, 850. I think we were, what, 350 when we did the drive down?
Dick has a story about Dutch Harbor and that 800 plus yards where it took it all the way around the isthmus in St.
Backside.
Yeah, on the other side of
Oh,
land.
that you had to be away from a haul out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they had to
yeah.
have watchers on the other
If they're-
side.
If they come anywhere near, then you cease.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so there, I mean, it was even further, I think it might have been 1,200 meters.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
ridiculous what they're coming up with there, for no reason. And, so it brings you all the way around the bay on the inside, and so since it was, they just draw this big radius circle, so then you had to have professional marine mammal observers at any point that can't be observed by one location. So they had to have them in boats and had to have them on these little peaks, and the old pillboxes out there. I mean, it was just horrendous. And it was just for, there was some otters.
Otters.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's otters there.
Yeah. Well, and it's, at some point, this is gonna be, I mean, you never wanna be the project or the outfit that has to challenge, but it's so random. I mean, it's like we had 3 different projects going on in 2013, 14, and, 15. And every single one of them had a different,
They just keep
Um,
escalating it.
it's
ratcheting
just,
it up.
yeah, and it's just random. It's not there's no evidence that, why it needs to be 800 versus 350 or
It's
that
bureaucracy
kind of
building.
stuff.
Yes.
It's not like they're saying because you're pile driving and it's noisy, it can travel. There's just, it's
worse
just a
'cause it
random
used to be that,
thing.
if we have a pile driving inspector there, we would make observations, because he's got time to look around and make those observations. Guys driving the piles are busy, got their hands busy. But now we're not even qualified to do it anymore. That you have to have like a master's degree in biology and you have to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions for Joe, I will turn the meeting over to Dick and his presentation on the 90%.
Okay, well, great, thanks for having me back. Here about a month ago, when we looked at the 50%, we call that a preliminary design. We're now actually at 95%, so we're at a final design stage. So this is really about the last of the major comments that we can receive, unless we have a major scope change or something, before we get ready for preparing these for advertising and for bids. So comments are still good, and I encouraged that the last time. We got some really good interaction, and it influenced the design, and I would say we should continue to do that as well, all the way till we're done. So that's just basically my introduction. So I have an agenda again. Pass that out, go both ways with it. And at the same time, I'm gonna pass this out.
Thank you.
Same page. You got spared. So I wanted to start off with these first 4 sheets here, get to talk about some different options and, you know, where we could slide the cells either up inshore or offshore and all that. And we went back and did some of that. So that's what these first sheets are. So the very first sheet that you see here, this is the site plan from the 50% drawing. I'm calling that option 1 now. We don't have to review it too much, but if you recall, my concerns with it is that we had it too far offshore and we had it sited right over a former dredged hole. And it was filled with shot rock, and it would be extremely expensive to be able to remove that rock and be able to put those sheet piles in. So at that point in time, we talked about let's either slide it inshore or offshore or several different combinations. So this is, we'll just flip past this sheet here. If you can take a look, just real quickly, it was sited between the 2 light poles. You see that out by the drive down? There's 2 light poles there, and that's where we got sited. So this option number 2 is the next sheet. And what we did here is we took that same cell and we slid it inshore and we put it at the center of the 2nd and the 3rd light pole. That's all we did with it, okay? But what you can see here, and what we didn't have on the first drawing, is that gear float, that work float is right there. So that was put in as a temporary measure. That is probably becoming more permanent, I would think, as the days go by. And so we took the design layout and we stuck that in there as if it might be permanent, and I thought that it was germane to the discussion because as you can see with option number 2, we're right out in front of it, fairly close to it. But this option basically requires more dredging than the first one. This is about $50,000 additional to do this due to the additional dredging for this option. So that's option number 2. So, but still, with option number 2, we would be able to expand the sheet piles in both directions, both onshore and offshore in the future under this arrangement. So I talked with Glow a little bit. I was actually in town about 3 weeks ago and ran some of these ideas past her, and we said, okay, what if we took option number 2 and we slid it offshore as far as we dared go till we got to the edge of that deep dredge hole, okay? And so that's what option number 3 does. It slides it back offshore, and then we took and we figured that this would be the farthest that this cell would ever go, because after that you start to get into that real deep dredge hole. So we took it to the very farthest limit there, and we got rid of that, we call that X pile, which would be the pile that allows you to extend. So right now we no longer have, on the offshore side, we no longer have the ability to extend in the offshore direction. So there's a special fabricated sheet pile that goes in that location, and there's 2 or 3 sheets in behind it to give it some stiffness, because they do move and they do bow, so you want to keep that a nice true straight line. So we're able to save a few bucks by getting rid of that, and this reduced the dredging a little bit. So and it still allows that gear float to remain. There's about 70 feet from the corner of the face beam, if you will, near shore to the corner of that work float. So there's still plenty of room there. What it does require is that we relocate a light pole.
Oh.
See the light pole?
Yeah.
There's a phantom line there. We got to slide that over about 20 feet. So that's not a big deal. You just dig it out, move it over, and rerun the circuits over to it, put a little handhold in. So
Couple $1,000.
it could be $10,000.
Could be 10,000.
$10,000.
No big deal.
I really haven't gotten. Yeah, it's a
No.
small item.
Yeah.
How about just taking it out?
Or we could just leave it there. You see where it's at. It's. I think it's going to be in the way. I think you're going to bang into that thing. I don't think it's a good idea. So we might as well take care of it now. What the estimate doesn't have in it is to add another mast arm to it. So it's simply you take that black light pole and that foundation base and you move it over and get it out of the way. But it doesn't provide any additional lighting. So if we needed more lighting, which I think you ultimately will need for the dock, I mean, that's something that we could add in now if you want to. I'd have to look into see what the cost would be.
What about lighting on the dock?
Yeah, so what I was thinking here is we would take a long mast arm out
Not like that.
and light it, throw some light out like that.
Maybe we can put an added alternative or something.
I haven't, I'm not an electrician, so I think the pole has to be a new pole because it comes up and then it has an arm on it that is welded in at the top, and so I think we'd have to get a whole new pole for that assembly. So it's going to be, I'm going to guess, another 10 grand or so. So maybe maybe 20 or 25 grand, you would have better lighting on this dock. Right now, the way this lighting shoots, and you've been out there at night, you know, it's more like this. You know, it's throwing that light forward, and then this comes across in here, like so. So if you look at it at night, you can get a feel for how that lighting is directed out there, and it's not directed back into the harbor. We specifically, when this was designed, was to light up this. So we would have to do something different here if you guys want to add lighting to it. But right now, it's not currently in the estimates. I'm just bringing that up as if you want us to deal with that, we can take care of it. But concept 3, the primary issues are is we slid it offshore as far as we feel is appropriate without getting into that heavy subgrade material. We have plenty of clearances to the float, and it's $50,000 less than that prior concept that I just showed you on option 2. So then we took a look at the next sheet is option number 4, and this was a thought to how can reduce the dredging cost, and one way to do that is to move the cells offshore. So you can see the little flare that we would have to build out of embankment and so forth. This is an equal cost option to option 3, but it moves because what we've done is we've reduced the dredging costs, but we've added fill. So this fill in here, on the backside here, is about the same as what it would be in savings for reducing the amount of dredging. So we really haven't done anything for costs. What we have done is pulled it tight up to the work float. You've got about 35 feet there. And we have, I believe, compromised a little bit of the future layout. And by that I'm saying, what is the pier head line coming back into shore? So you're gonna get tight up in here. You're gonna run into potential issues if you ever do a 2-lane boat launch ramp. It's gonna affect those sort of planning issues for you. And then the other thing it's going to do is we have to go back and get a permit modification for this because it's in a different location.
For this one?
Yeah, option 4
Even
is,
to do this, just this much?
yeah.
And there's no dredging at all involved in this one?
There is still a little bit of
There's
dredging.
still some dredging,
Yeah,
okay.
there's still dredging involved there.
To make it perfect.
Yeah.
Pardon?
To make it perfect.
Yes, it doesn't have to have dredging,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
and we're gonna get into that here in a little bit on after we go through the overall plan, how we can break out different elements into base bid and add an alternate, whether you wanna award that work or not. But, to make it perfect, yes, and to make it comparable and comparing the cost with other options, there's still a little bit of dredging.
I think this one, we kind of talked back and forth, this was where he was meeting Bobby Dolan's, idea kind of halfway of, okay, tweak it so we don't have to dredge, but then you're compromising, this idea of having, if we do a 2-lane and all that kind of stuff, rather than tweaking like that, and making it, this still maintains the kind of the straight edge.
This to give you an idea, where the line of rocks are on the shoulder out there, the big, we call them these barrier rocks. This is what you see, these little dots on the edge here.
Yeah.
That's at the shoulder, and it's just to keep vehicles from driving off. It's 100 feet offshore from those line of rocks to the face
It's
of
a
this.
long ways.
It's 100 feet.
That's on the option
4.
Beyond the rocks.
Option 4.
It's a long ways
What's
out
that?
there.
What's the armor rock right there? The slope.
It's 1.5 to 1.
Okay, so we're talking what, 30 feet?
Yeah, it shows right here. So if you took, from the shoulder to the toe, that is 40 feet.
40 feet, then another 60
Another
feet beyond
60
that.
feet beyond it. In my mind, you definitely wouldn't want to do anything in here because if you go this direction, you're definitely going to be pinching off this access coming in. That's going to be a very much compromise in that direction. As you come in here into the future, my concern becomes, okay, are you gonna extend this ever as a boat launch ramp, and then you're gonna have vessels, tied up in here? Is it gonna be too close to some of these other operations?
And my concern is, we've always talked about this possibly being for bigger boats. You start looking at maneuvering room for bigger vessels, trying to spin around and get out,
Bigger as in over 70.
Yeah. Like what's on, picture, that's 100-footer sitting there, on your,
I guess there'd be more tidal current also, wouldn't there?
Could be, as you have more of a projection there.
Pretty quiet.
but it does get us away from doing a lot of that dredging initially. you know, and this would probably end up being, you know, this would be your standalone. There probably wouldn't be much,
Well, what it does is it gets
You
the
know.
face of the dock out about a -9 or -10 without doing any dredging.
Instead of the 5.
and
Yeah,
it's
so
a
minus
trade-off
five,
then,
yeah.
so then we wouldn't go any further with this. This would be it. This would probably be as far as
So what,
even the future.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
what's the depth, off the face of option 3 at, 12 feet off the face of option 3?
17 feet.
On option 3,
Yeah.
17 feet?
Yeah, so let's go to option 3.
Is that with the dredging, Dick, or without the dredging?
Without the dredging.
Without the dredging.
Okay, you see, right at the face, there's a 5 contour kind of runs.
Yep.
Kind of runs through there. It might be a little shallower, right tight there to the fender pile.
Yeah.
But say maybe, in the range of 5 to 10 feet off the face of the fenders, you're at -5. So -5 to +12 is 17 feet. At mid vessel,
Minus 5, and then at what water?
+12,
At 12 foot of water,
yeah.
okay. Who's that talking? I heard a voice.
I think you did
That
too.
was your stomach.
I like I like number 3, but we wanted to push the envelope so that we weren't sitting around here going, well, let's dream up a whole nother thing for Dick to investigate.
Well, I wanted to answer the questions that were asked of me the last time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to do. I can tell you my preference, but I'd rather you tell me yours.
I like 3.
I like 3.
I like 3. Yeah,
I'd like to see it longer.
of course. And was it you that left me a phone
Yes, I
message?
did.
I was in Tucson.
You were in transit. Your,
And-
your secretary said,
Well,
I don't know if you're gonna get a hold of him or not.
What,
Well, I would just simply say, this is the last time we're gonna do anything out here, fellas.
You'd like to see
I'm
more-
in my-
more
Yeah,
dock.
if, you
So
know,
I
I just wanted to know
I
what
didn't-
30 more feet would cost, that's
Anyway,
all.
that message
Because
got
then we're done.
lost.
You lost, okay.
In
Yeah.
about a week
Yeah.
after that, I thought, God, I
Yeah.
wonder who could have sent me that, because I
Yeah.
didn't recognize
Yeah.
it, and then I just thought, okay, well, I have the answer for that.
Yeah, I saw it in your little notes
Okay,
there.
so I'll.
That's
we'll
what
be
it
talking
is.
about that shortly.
Siri.
Oh.
Oh, Siri.
oh, it is, it's a recording, you're recording. Can you see it?
So those are the 4 options that we've looked at here, okay? So the design of the dock itself, I can put that anywhere in those locations.
Just throw it further that way. Just throw it, that's okay, just throw it. Thank you. Stupid phone.
Are there any questions on options 2 through 4?
I'm picturing this.
I shut it off,
whole-
so it's okay, Clinton. Just get it out
arrangement.
of there.
So you got sheet piling, you got slope, and so
Somehow
you had the
answering it
sheet
without even
piling
answering
getting
it.
shorter and
Talking on the
shorter, I mean,
clock
they're
here.
down there, but I'm trying to see the picture of it.
In through a section, yeah. We have some in the drawings that I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
show you now that we've advanced that a little bit.
So the difference between option 2 and option 3 is what's the cost, we don't know what it costs to move the light pole
Yeah, I was
versus the amount of extra dredging.
I have that.
Oh,
And the difference in cost between
50K.
option 2 and 3 is $40,000 to $50,000. I've already run the number on that.
Because of the light pole.
Yeah, there's a
It's
little more added
cheap.
cost in 3 for the light pole, but there's more added cost, 40 to 50, about 50,000 more for the added
extra
dredging.
dredging.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Option 3 is cheaper,
Cheaper.
Option 3 is
Yeah,
cheaper.
yeah,
You can see
okay.
that.
not more expensive.
Right.
I think that's good.
And it gives us better access to the
Good
flow.
move.
Well,
I
it
think keeping it
provides a
closer.
cornerstone. It provides, that's our cornerstone. We move from here forward, like John mentioned, the current, around that corner. It's the proximity to a float. You start, it's that, there's your starting point and move inland. So
I was
that's where
really hoping to see some younger guys sitting at the table here because I'm never gonna see this in my lifetime. The added, never gonna happen. We're talking 15 years down the road.
Oh, you mean any more than that?
Any more than what we got,
Oh.
that's it, yeah. I was hoping that we'd have some young guys here, like in their 30s with vision. That went, oh yeah, I think 20 years from now or 30 years from now, we'll see this,
So this dock face, as you've got it on option 3, is 70 foot or 65 foot.
65, isn't it?
Yeah, 65 feet for just the beam,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
The added-
we've added the outside of that 10 feet, we've
Piling.
added the piles.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
get
So it's
2
like
boats on there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If they
But no
play- if
light.
they play.
On the, out there on the, near the dock bays.
No, we don't have any, didn't have any lighting, we weren't gonna do any electrical on this project at all.
And they do tend to be a obstacle too. Any-
What does?
Any poles out there.
Anything out
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I would suggest,
Swinging and stuff.
you know, adding
probably
a heavy,
not.
just, you know, moving the pole over so that's out of your way for this egress here. And then putting a mast arm out, reaching out
Far
to
as
it.
you can.
Yeah, and then directing the light this way.
Yeah.
So you direct it out, but also down, so that you're not shining in the vessel captain's eyes as he's coming in there.
LED floods.
Well, we tried to do LED, but you guys didn't want LEDs, so I forget what we put here. Are these high pressure sodium?
LEDs because they're too brilliant.
Expensive.
What was our reason?
No, the reason is because Power and Light's maintaining these guys, and to have yet another special
Another shelf
a
of
shelf
bulbs.
for just the harbor, this, you know, that gets to be a little bit, and then pretty soon we're buying the stuff and we're hoping that they save it, or do I keep it, and now I'm in the business of changing light bulbs, because the entire community is the high pressure sodiums. Because when we started this project, you know, however many years
Keeps
ago, they
changing.
were not proven.
Keep changing.
We have our first LED now in the harbor, and it's the corner at the crane dock that we put in. And okay, that's a good trial, but you know, it's just at some point, you know, we'll probably end up making the transition, and maybe this is the place to do it. But on the one arm that's hanging over, but chances are we got to get this thing built first, and then we'll worry about
Yep.
the arm.
So are you saying don't do anything with the arm? Because here's the issue.
No, I think. Well,
I
let's.
mean, if we go to move the pole, you gotta take the pole down.
Right,
So you gotta
right,
lay it down. You
right.
gotta interrupt the circuits and all that. And then you're gonna have to stand it back up. So there's cost with someone doing that.
Yep.
Not a lot of cost, but there's cost. And then if you go to put a mast arm on it later, you gotta take it all down, put it down.
Sure,
put the arm on,
sure.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. So.
Yeah. I'm
you
I'm
want us to
thinking.
think about doing that right
I'm
now, or-
thinking about later on in the meeting when we've gotten to the bottom
Okay.
down, and he wants to
Yeah.
start cutting $10,000 so that we, you know,
Yeah,
all this
okay,
kind of
so
stuff.
that's something we could add. It's
I'm
not
just
got this
saying.
in there.
That's what I think.
Just
Yeah.
wanted to bring it out.
Yeah.
If you take a look, you go down on the drive down, we wanted to minimize number of poles there, so we've got some big arms sticking out there to get light in different directions.
So
You probably
handy.
haven't noticed it that much, but it would be something comparable to that. And I would get Mark Morris to help me out doing that kind of stuff. Okay,
You know, I'm wondering, you know, I mean, we can bring this up at a later time too in the conversation about the light pole and stuff. I wonder how many people would actually need the light there and don't bring their own light? You know,
Boats have lights.
yeah, you know, and if you're operating
They-
in the middle of the night, you
they
know,
have LED,
you
too.
got lights and, you know,
Sodiums, too.
yeah. So I'm just wondering if we, you know, if that's a necessary expense.
No.
do you do any loading at night?
If I got
In
lots
the
of
winter,
lights.
it's
though.
always
I got
night,
lots
right?
of lights.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm worried about are just all these these edges and stuff, guys backing up and trying to load out and not having good
You end
lights.
up with a car overboard, and pretty soon
Oh,
you've saved
you-
yourself.
You know, on top,
millions,
you
yeah.
shining down and illuminating the deck
Yeah.
of the dock.
Seems like pretty cheap safety measure.
Yep.
So you're
Then
talking
next
about-
thing you know, we'll get Homeland Security there, you know, making sure they can back up correctly. And
Well, if you remember, lighting was an added alternate for this
Yeah.
entire program, and
Yeah,
here
We were
we
gonna have
are
it dark.
with,
we were gonna
you
be in the
know,
dark.
we could
That's
afford all of
exactly
that.
right.
So
Okay.
remember that.
I mean,
Let's see what we
actually,
can afford.
I'm gonna be
So
here
let's
for
see what
3
we
or
can
4 days.
afford.
I'll
Let's see
go
what we
out and
can
take a
afford.
look at those lights and
Yeah.
see how much they shine out over the bank there. Maybe it's all right.
Go out there at high water,
Yeah.
20-footer after dark tonight.
There is a big tide.
Is it? Yeah, they're big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, see, the tides were
Go
just
out there
high
and
here at
skip.
what, noon,
See if you can read a book.
what, 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
It was just
I'll
high.
have a skip. I can go down at low tide and see if it's shining on the end of the riprap. There you go.
Yeah, he's gonna spend the night too.
Okay.
Figured you were down here for Thanksgiving.
Be here till Sunday. So this is the 95% design submittal. Pass that down.
This is so exciting.
And what percent was this stuff? Was this what's,
Well, that was just conceptual level.
okay, but, and did that get into here? Or,
So what I did is I took concept number 3,
Okay, you
Yeah,
knew,
included it in
you
the
knew
night.
we would choose that.
I wasn't gonna lead it to you, lead you there, but I figured you'd get there on your
It's the
own.
obvious.
Good, good.
Or you could just simply say, this cost you $30,000, this is 3.
No, it
Yeah,
simply
whatever
is,
it is.
I would just take, because the dock is a dock wherever I design it, and I would just take one of those site plans and reinsert it back into this site plan, so
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal for me.
taking this one in.
So, we'll kinda go through this sheet by sheet, but, and we'll talk about schedule later, cause I've got a whole topic on schedule.
Yeah.
So I saved a little money, and I turned them on two sides, so bear with me on that. We're gonna skip over the first couple of sheets, and we'll go to, drawing 103. The bottom right-hand corner is the sheet number. And, the only thing different here is that we just added that workflow in there on this overall plan. This is just a general overview. Okay, and we're gonna skip over 104 and 105. We've already talked about the geotechnical conditions before. If you have any questions on that, I certainly would be happy to answer those. On sheet 106 is where we are now. Sheet 106 is basically what you just saw for concept number 3. Other than we have a few sections that we've cut through that. You can see these cut bubbles in here. So we've got a section that says AA and then 107. So that's section A found on sheet 107. BB is a cut section found on sheet 107. So one's alongside the dock, the other one's through the dock. So if you flip over to the next sheet, you'll see those sections.
There you go, Jeff.
And Jeff,
There you go, that's
kind of
it.
what you were talking about.
Exactly what I was talking about.
And so, in particular, you can see like on sheet A, or section AA on top, you can see the existing ground, and you can see the little dredge piece that we want to do in front of it, right? And so AA, I think, is off to the side. Yeah, AA is on the side of the dock. So this dredge section here, this dashed line is the original ground. We'll cut it and then we'll slope it back up at 2 to 1, okay, along the outside. And then through the face of the dock, we're just gonna dredge obviously to the face. So that's that little piece in there.
So you're saying the dredge would go before the piling?
No, we go ahead and probably drive the piles first. So the first thing you'll do, you'll go out and you'll take all that heavy armor off the rock, or all that heavy armor rock off the slope.
Yeah.
Because you can't get the sheet piles to it,
Yeah.
right? We'll take that off and we're gonna stockpile it. So you're gonna have a pile of rock. You want that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Somewhere.
you need to tell me where to put that.
Good.
Would you put it back inside after the sheet pile?
No,
Can't
no.
do it that way.
Too big.
We prefer not to do that. We want to get a uniform, in order to get uniform
Materials.
grading and compaction
And
in
then it'll
there.
settle the same.
Yeah, those rocks are huge, and it's hard to put in a 1 to 1.5 foot lift of that stuff and compact it. I mean, those rocks are 4 and 5 feet. There's some big rocks in there, so we'd rather not do that. But it is good armor rock. Hey, a visitor. So the idea, Glo, is to take that rock off the slope and pile it up in
Okay.
the uplands right on site.
Okay.
If you don't want it there, that's the cheapest thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to
Well,
haul
we'll
it
get
off.
Carl. Maybe we'll give it
Does
to
he
Carl.
want it? I mean,
Maybe.
big stuff.
Or maybe around the perimeter of the dock so we don't have to have a light, so then the truck just backs into a rock.
You can do, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. There's gonna be a lot of it.
There
It's really
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that,
Saw some paving material.
this could have been
Okay.
a part of the other job, because we could have saved, probably 1,000 yards of armor rock there. At about $50, that'd been $50,000.
Yep. We
So,
knew
but that was a decision that we
We knew
knew
it.
all along, and it wasn't gonna happen. I understand that, but
Do you have a suggestion
what to do with it?
to do with it?
Sell it.
I mean,
Before it's pulled.
you could give it to the contractor and just say that you become the owner of this,
Okay.
and there's value in it, and he would probably bid that value into
Okay.
the job if you
Okay.
don't want the rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure
it's-
what you would do with the
No,
rock.
I could ask Carl about it,
Uh-huh.
if there's any value, but like Dave was saying, maybe up at the dump. But anyway, okay, but that's a
Maybe
better
it's-
scenario.
Maybe it's to go to lure.
It's, I mean, I
He
don't
gets
know.
their stuff for nothing.
But that's a better case scenario. I like that.
This is a rock that's been
Yeah.
graded out. It's an expensive rock because of its size. And, we pulled all the fines out of it, and it was placed in there rock by
Yeah.
rock by rock by rock. And so, it's a good armor stone rock. It's,
Probably be better bang for our buck to give it back to the contractor and say, you know,
take it
Carry
offsite.
it.
He'd
take it
stockpile
offsite. Yeah, then
Yeah,
he
you take
can
it
use
offsite, we
it.
don't want it. Because I think it's gonna be in your way for a long time.
Yeah,
Would you
Right.
give us an estimate on that rock so that we could throw that in? So when he goes to put a bid on it, I don't want the guy lowballing us at $15,000 or something. You know, if it's worth 40, you know, maybe he could come in at 30 or something, or
Well, I
35.
have the bid prices for what it costs to put that in there.
Okay.
And of course, that's drilling, shooting, hauling, placing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But typically, if you were to drill and shoot that rock in a quarry, it's probably gonna cost you about, $8 a yard, something like that, just to, after it's, quarry's been stripped off, just to drill it and shoot it. And then you've got to sort it, and you gotta load it and all that. So by the time it gets to the job, it's probably in the range of $25 or something like that. By the time you place it, it's probably pushing 35 or $40.
So yeah, so just a ballpark on what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 25 to 30,000 is what we could anticipate on 1,000 yards of shot rock. I mean, just
So what the contractor's gotta
Yeah,
do now,
yeah.
he's gotta go down and get it, so he's got time
Some
and
expenses.
effort. Yeah, to actually pull it off, and he's gonna use it, he's gotta put it in a truck, so he's gonna have to go haul it, then he's gonna have to go stockpile it someplace. Then when he goes to use it again, he's gonna have to pick it up again and put it in the truck. So all of those things are gonna come and add costs for him too. I don't think you're gonna get a lot of salvage, but what you are gonna do probably is get enough salvage that you don't have to move that big pile that's on your site right now at a
Right.
later date, cause that's gonna cost you.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of salvage value in it, really, unfortunately.
It
So-
does come to mind that if we were gonna ever do something out at Scow Bay, it might be, you could stockpile it out on the jetty or something somewhere.
That's the sort of thing that if you had a plan for it to use, it's good rock, and you would just tell him, he's gotta take it anyway and move it anyway, so he'll probably put it in a truck, and if you had to move it across the site, it's just 100 yards, but it's got it in the truck already. It's just gonna cost another maybe $5 a yard or something to get it out to Scow Bay.
Yeah, it's,
Then you're gonna have to
I like
push it up
that
in the
idea.
pile and handle it.
Maybe we should-
Yeah.
How big is the pile?
1,000 yards, if it was 100 by 100.
This room up.
50-foot square.
We'll just think of the width of the stock and go out there and
Okay,
look at it,
it's-
so.
It's probably like,
Fill this place up.
Oh, yeah.
like 30 feet by 100 feet by 10 feet.
It's a big pile.
Big as this building.
Yeah.
It's this whole building.
Yeah.
Want me to run that again? 30, enter, what did I say, 100 times 10 times 27 divide, that's 1,100 yards, so it's a little bit less than that, maybe 25 by 100 by 10
Yeah,
feet.
that's still. Be nice to have the place to put it. We don't
Yeah,
have.
it's basically this room, 100 feet long,
Yeah.
it's a pile of rock.
Extend the jetty.
So anyway, if you can get back-
Anyway, yeah, right. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
No, give it back to the contractor. It's worth it.
Is that what you want me to do, or?
I mean, unless Carl has a use for it, we don't have a place to store it. We don't have a use for it. Moving it 3 times in order to have that ideal spot is going to cost us 10 times what it is just
It's gonna be a
to.
pain in the rear.
And we knew this was going to happen, and this is the "I told you so" factor.
I cringed as that went in, that I
Yeah.
knew it was going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could put it in center of Main Street and put
Let's give it to
"I
John
told
Haverlick.
you so" on it.
Let's just put it in John Haverlick's yard.
Hey, there you go. Okay.
All right. So those are basically the typical sections, so you can see how far offshore this thing is going to be from the existing bank on 107. 108, sheet 108, that is just some details of moving that pole over, like for this. We just grabbed those details from the drive down photos. Sheet 201, you've seen this one already. This is basically the plan view, the layout of the sheet piles. And where did those, here they are. So I don't, sorry, Paul, take your resting spot there. This is a sheet pile. And this is actually the same sheet, very similar section as what we're gonna be designing here. And these are 1/2 meter sheets, so this is a sheet pile, we just did a chop saw there. So that's basically what the width they're gonna come in, 1/2 meter, so about 18 inches. And And so we got fingers and we got thumbs. This is the finger, this is the finger, and this is the thumb. And so you just alternate the direction of these things. And so they lock thumb to thumb, and that's the swing angle on them. This is called the web. These are 1/2 inch thick steel. And then of course the ones that we're designing on the face sheets will be galvanized both sides, so they'll be hot dip galvanized the entire sheet. So that's, to give you an idea, that's the section there that you're gonna have. I just thought it'd be interesting for you guys to take a look.
It is, yeah.
But you've seen the sheet 201 before.
Could you tell them that, explain the 31 feet by, and how much that, you probably would get to that, but that's interesting.
Yeah. So, you know what you've seen here, let me just get, I'm gonna go to a sheet, where's that 201 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so go to 201. Here's the layout here. These are basically 2 end cells. But if you were to build a longer wall, what you would do is you would take this end cell and you would slide it over, and you would have another internal cell, and that would come to about here, and you'd have another cell like so. And then this, there'd be a Y pile there, and then this end cell would end from that and would come around like that. So,
Triple bottom.
yeah, so this is 3 cells essentially, and it would look more like this thing. You see it? You guys see that? Okay. So we have these special Y piles here, and this is an anchor wall, and then this end wall. So because of the swing angle and the geometry, there's so many sheet piles that go from one Y pile right here to the next Y pile. So these are the Y piles right there. Okay. So that's 19 sheets. So when you do the geometry and the math, that gives you an extra 31.35 feet of cell. Every time you add an internal cell, you end up getting 31.
That new scallop.
The new scallop in the middle gives you an additional length of dock of 31.35 feet. Okay. That's what that would do. But it's kind of easy to do while you're building, right? So after you build the 2 end cells and you go to add on to them later, what you do is you go into these special Y X piles right here, and we would add on to this thing. So instead of having a standard back wall here, then we would go to the next cell, would come around, and it would be something like that, and something like that. So you actually lose a little bit of efficiency when you start off with 2 end cells. If you could follow that logic a little bit.
So, and then from this out to the face.
Yeah.
Is over the 31 feet.
Over this. So if you drew a straight line between all these special piles, these X piles and Y piles, from that to the face is roughly 4 feet.
So just to give you an idea.
So you lose that. That's the difference between how far they go out.
That's a bulge.
Yeah,
That's
bulge.
basically the bulge,
Yeah.
the circular bulge in there. So you're
And that's
coming
the
around,
end.
you're coming around 19 sheets to get this into a Y pile, and when you fill it out, there's slack in that. You fill them, they expand, right? So the combination of the expansion and just the geometry of the sheets is roughly 4 feet from of the bulge from the Y pile out, and you straighten that off with a face beam. That's how we're planning to do that.
So if you're trying to tie up, if we think we're gonna get creative and that kind of stuff to try and think of.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of folks that don't want to put a fender system on there. They'll just hang some loader tires off of here, and these are mostly for barge type docks. They'll just take and hang something off the face like that, and you just breast up against that. But
Then they have bollards or something to.
yeah, something in the background, maybe a dredge pile or something in the back there.
I don't know where we are in the budget, but I mean, if you have those truck tires hanging down there, you could just tie to the whatever line's holding those cables holding those truck tires is going to be.
You could tie to that, and there'd be a bull rail that comes across.
Yeah, but
and
if we get that, I don't know where we are.
we're gonna get there, and just as soon as I get through there, I wanna leave the money to the last. I
Yeah.
kinda want you guys to understand how it works and what the technical issues are and so forth, and then we can go through and can build this thing up, the menu of what you actually want to build based on how much money. So if we go to sheet 202, those are just details that you've seen in the past. on, you know, how to thread these sheets properly, and we went through that. So you don't want to thread them like this, you know. They can come right out. You know, there's only one way they work, but I have seen them done many different ways. If you take a look on 202 in the upper right-hand corner, so we have this pipe rail, and this pipe rail is going to be along the complete perimeter of the dock. So going back to 201, we're going to put that pipe rail all the way around the side, so trucks can't go off. They'll come all the way across here, and then it comes into the face beam, and there's a bull rail on the face beam. So it's a pipe rail that comes along here, and it comes along here. And if we don't do any fendering at all, we would continue it along the face in here, and that's just to keep vehicles from entering the harbor.
Redley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Redley.
So let's go to 203. When we were here last time, these details on these face beams and the bull rail and the fendering and stuff, we had a more elaborate system in there for energy absorbing systems and so forth, and there was a lot of comments about that and how that wasn't needed for vessels. It didn't need that soft of a berth, and then also for trucks that were loading on the vessels, they wanted to be out as far as they possibly could be on the dock. So the upper face beam plan is really the same plan as you saw the last time. This option here shows timber fender piles as the fender unit. We have two different details here, but the lower cost option is just to drive some fender piles. And what I said is I'd go back and take a look at the permitting to see if we could drive the fender piles, and it does look like it's allowable. Yeah, so I found in the permits, and I did review that with Glow, it says you cannot do any surface applied creosote wood products at all, but these are pressure treated. And so without going back and asking permission, we know that a pressure treated lumber is not a surface treated creosote, so our opinion is this is allowable.
So is that the arsenic pressurized, or is it creosote pressurized?
It's creosote pressurized, yeah.
It's not somebody tying up and painting creosote to it.
Yeah, I understand.
Right.
Yeah, so it's injected, so they go in, you see the incisions in there, and they pressurize that in, and it goes in fairly deep. It goes in fairly deep, and then there's a process where they can actually strip, they clean them, and they can strip the outer stuff, so, you know, get a little less on the holes and so
Oh,
forth.
I see.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Might tie up lines, so I'll appreciate that.
Will they have caps?
yeah, we'll do something for a surface treatment here as well. We'll put a mastic on there, or copper nails, or both, and we'll put a covering over that too, so they don't rot over time. And we don't have that detail, but I wanted to show you that we were able to pull
That's
that
great.
pile in tight,
No kidding, yeah.
and we were able to move the bull rail off slightly. So we have the total from the inside of bull rail.
You got 3 inches between the pile and the sheets.
It's pretty darn
Yeah,
close.
it's really tight.
This
Close.
is,
But
yeah.
that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
wanted it
that'd be really
tight. There was
nice.
some suggestion to go
It's
under.
enough for
Yeah.
most guys.
No,
I
that'd be
don't
great.
really want to go under. These piles are going to get broken. You're going to have
Yeah.
to replace piles and so forth, and you can't really drive them through the face, you know, so it's
Right.
really tough. So you want to be able to have a maintenance, you want to be able to perform major maintenance on the thing, simply.
That is.
So this is very simple, and this is the lowest cost fendering system.
Right.
But to answer the question of how far, what is the distance from inside of bull rail to outside of fender, that's roughly 20 inches. And it depends a little bit because all these timber piles aren't the same dimension. They're not all
Right.
perfect. But let's just say that we have one that was 12 to 14 inches at the top, and that's fairly common. And then we have on top of that another 8-inch bull rail. So it's, what is that? That's say 14 plus 8, that's 22 inches. So it's 20 to 22 inches. And that's down from 3.5 feet or so where we were the last time. But remember, the last time it had an energy absorber in it. It had a 12-inch cylinder in it, right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, these wooden pilings are now gonna be your energy absorbers.
Yeah.
Sure,
They really deflect.
They
do.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
And nice, it's only 3 inches from there, so in case the guy really hits it, it's only
It'll-
gonna go in
it won't
3
break.
inches and it won't break.
Unless he
Yeah.
pushes it forward.
Yeah.
But that's only at the face. There's only 2 points, so that's at 3
And it gets
inches.
bigger as it goes
It
down.
gets bigger everywhere else.
Oh,
Yeah, so right
oh,
here.
okay, so kind of at an angle.
Let's go to here.
Well, because the fenders are
So-
hunted in upside down.
Here's the sheet piles underneath. I'm just gonna draw that in blue, because it's a little easier to see. And you got the same on the other side, right?
So it's only those two right there.
So there's only 2 locations,
Oh.
here and here, that
Where
that's
it's gonna be
that
tight.
close, and actually, that's
4
where
feet
the ladder's
here.
at, so we're actually off of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's 4
so just
feet
at the very
from there to there.
furthest point out on the arch, will we be at 3 inches, okay? So you're gonna have a little more than that.
That'd be nice.
So that is, and we'll talk about costs here shortly, but that is the timber fender pile option, okay? And you'll see that on section CC lower left, you can see what we did on those filler plates. We did stiffen those up a little bit after some discussion. We went back and said, okay, let's make sure that we can get a heavy crane on that, and that's right in here. So we have a hole in here, and we have a hole out in here, and a hole out in here, and we're gonna put that over. We're gonna plate that over, and so we put some stiffener plates in there.
Oh, half-inch
Yeah.
color plates.
And you can see we've got, I think we have 3 of them on that center one. Yeah, there's three plates in there. So that stiffens that up. No problem with the loads that we're anticipating there. Okay. On the lower right-hand section, you can see how the bull rail, the steel bull rail comes in, and this is I'm just gonna draw that in on the ends, okay? That's here and here, so it comes across the face and it returns. And then that steel pipe rail that I showed, that's all along the outer edge, that'll come in and weld into the end of it right here.
Into the sheet pile.
No, it'll go into the
Into that
end
timber.
of the bull rail.
Bull rail, yeah.
If you take a look at the bottom right detail, that's that pipe.
Right here.
Yeah, that's coming in, and then the pipe welds into that. So that's how the whole bull rail system will work on this thing. Questions? Sheet 204, we had some discussions about the ladders. There's a preference for low profile grab bar at the top. If you take a look at the lower right hand detail, that's the landing, the top landing for the ladder as it comes up. We kept the grab bar no higher, or it's the same height as the bull rail. Okay, so we're not above it at all. And then we haven't gone inshore any closer than the inside of the bull rail as well. You can see that. So it's, yeah.
What's your clearance between the end of the bull rail and grab?
Yeah, it's not much. It's like 2 inches or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So that grab bar is only a foot off the deck. So you're gonna come up the ladder. You guys are more accustomed to doing that than I am, but when you get near the top,
You do a lot of bending over.
you're gonna be bent over. You know.
But it'll probably always be there. We hope.
Yeah, you guys, but that's why I asked that question. If you ever see lines that are gonna be coming across the deck, and you guys said no, you typically don't see that. And maybe if you brought in a barge or something to this, and they'd be to a bollard tying off with some mooring lines to a bollard, maybe some of those heavy lines may come off and that can be stripping it. But the vessels that you're talking about, you're always gonna be wrapped around a pile. You're not gonna be ever tying any lines off to the bull rail, I can see.
Well,
It's too tight
No.
dependent to tie up like that.
Yeah. I mean, do you do it for a short period of time, so I'm just wrap and hold it or something like that? I mean,
more work.
They're too high. It's too high.
so, I mean, there's still a chance, if you guys don't wanna bend over, to bring those rails up. We can bring them up to 2 feet, you can bring them up however you guys want to do that.
My
seems
concern
minimal.
about that is the height on that is that as they're swinging stuff, off deck, swinging it with their own rigging
Yeah.
on, or a crane, that kind of stuff, that's, clipping it with the keel of a seine skiff, or, because they take it out. But Charles pointed out that the trailer is going to be higher than the bull rail anyway. They're not lifting it, or the back of it, of a truck. We probably won't have a bucket system, because that's what happens on the crane dock, is you have the big buckets, they're loaded full. As they swing that over, there's this much clearance, and it clips the hits it 14 times and then pretty soon it's dislodged. Over there, because we don't have a stationary crane and a bucket, there won't be that. They're gonna have a crane truck, they're lifting it on,
With the guy who knows how to run it.
well, or their own rigging,
Yeah,
that I don't
yeah.
think you're gonna see, maybe you won't see that clearance too. So quite possibly we could go up and over. I love the ladders at Icicle, you climb up, and it's really nice,
Well, I
where
brought
you
the old one. I
climb
brought
up
the
and
old one
over,
here if you wanna look at it.
and you know. And we only have one ladder now, so,
We got two ladders.
two ladders, okay.
You guys talk about lights for safety. The top of ladders are the most dangerous
Yeah.
thing on the dock nowadays. I mean, more people get killed.
We
because
had-
they
we
lose
had
their
it up,
grip or something, What's OSHA think about how high they have to be?
OSHA likes these.
The taller ones.
Oh, yeah. They're up 3.5 feet here.
Yeah, and we may not have to go quite that
So
far,
you-
2.5
You're coming up
maybe,
and at
but,
3.5 feet, you're up about here.
yeah,
Yeah,
So
and
you
that's
walked all the way
Icicles.
through, so.
Yeah,
yeah.
So if these do get clipped and broken, now it's not, doesn't look like that big of a.
Depends on how big a
project to
pipe we have too, Dick. You're gonna have a hard time bending a 3-inch pipe.
Yeah,
If
no,
they're
it's
too
not
big, you
that.
can't get your hand
oh,
around
a
it.
it's gotta be
seine
2
skiff,
inches.
swinging
Yeah,
seine
let me see what
skiff.
I have there.
Yeah.
I mean, no,
It's-
there's gonna be no match.
Inch and a half.
It's 1.25 rebar.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a
Rebar.
number 10 rebar that's
You get a hold of
bent
it.
and galvanized, so it's got the knurled ends on it, so you
Yeah.
can grab it, it's got some
Yeah.
grip to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you think something can be
The
repaired?
pipe coming up is a 4-inch extra strong, so it'd be 4.5 inch by probably 5/8 wall or so. So the main ladder pipe is 4.5.
So what are the rungs?
The rungs are number 10 rebar as well. So they're.
So that's what you're putting your hands on, of course. not
All the way
big-
up.
Not the, they used to make those ladders with the extra bar on them.
Yeah.
On the outside, yeah.
Supposed to have your hands up on the outside.
Yeah, so these, you're
Yeah.
going up, but you're gonna be grabbing an 1.25 bar
Yeah.
rebar,
That's nice.
and that same bar would come on up and
All
over.
over.
So we've used these a lot. Guys like them
Mhm.
for that reason. But if you're just gonna knock them off, there's no sense in putting them on there.
Well, maybe not.
I could go either way.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get that much use compared to what the crane
crane.
truck's gonna.
With that kind of a novice.
Even if it's not that much more expense, I
Um,
would go for the bigger one first, and then
same
you can always
cost.
cut it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So go back to what we had here.
Yeah,
Yep.
My guys are gonna love that. They hated to have to do this. They just didn't like this, so.
okay.
If they're damaged, the repair is simply cutting them and welding them back
Welding a
on,
new
isn't
bar
it?
on, yeah.
Yeah, or straighten it
Or
out
slip
with a
a-
rosebud.
Slip a hose over the edge of it.
Yeah. Get the grinder out.
Yeah, you just cut them off and you have to re-weld it.
Yeah.
There'll be a top plate into that.
Uh-huh.
And so you just cut a hole back in there and stick that in there and weld it back on.
A lot of the stuff's gonna be lifted way up past that because it's gonna be put on a truck
That's
or
what-
something.
That's
so,
what I'm, yeah.
It's just,
Always-
doesn't need.
Which is
Hopefully
different than the crane dock
Your
where you have
average
a
ding dong
bucket.
won't be
Right,
in charge of
exactly.
hydraulics at this facility.
Yeah. And it's unlikely you're gonna be swinging stuff on and off your boat if you can't see what's up above. You're gonna wait for the tide, and then be able to
Yeah.
work.
We could start a pool though, see when the first ladder damage will occur. It'll be a fun
In
pool
how
to
many
have.
days?
I say 2018,
Who?
January.
And who?
No, February 11th, 2018.
Yeah, and who will be
That might
there?
be
Are we
pretty.
being recorded? Yeah.
Okay, so, here's the detail on the other one. That's 3'6" above the deck, right? But it also comes internal to the bull rail slightly. Is that gonna be a problem, or? One thing I can think of would be the guys operating the boom trucks.
Well, or a trailer gets back down there
Yeah.
and somebody hits it,
Well,
which
the
is-
trailer's gonna go over the top of the bull rail anyway.
Exactly,
So it's,
yeah,
The boom truck's usually got those outriggers. He's leaving lots of room
yeah.
for those. so.
I'm not worried about I'm more worried about the trailers
Yeah.
backing and, yeah.
What are people gonna do if they back up a trailer? Are they gonna lift with their own rigging, I guess, at high water only?
Well, that's what Charles would do.
Very
is
high
he would
water.
lift it up and back it on, put the skiff onto the back of a trailer.
Oh,
that
but if you're
has-
gonna lift, your
It
own
might just be an
stuff
it might just be an
Oh.
educational thing there,
Well, I guess he'd bring a trailer alongside the boom
Yeah.
truck, so
Educate
there
them.
would
Maybe
be
we just drop a little
another
piece of
person's
paper that if
trailer.
you're gonna use this bulkhead, you come into the harbor shack to get a little quick little piece of paper, like shooting a moose. If you back over this handrail, it's gonna cost you $2,000.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you
That's why lights and all that
Yeah.
stuff becomes
don't.
important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't see it, I mean,
I could go
there's no
either
lights
way.
out there.
I could go either way on all
Paint it
this
bright
stuff.
orange and-
Like
Yeah,
you
sure.
say, we can, if we rip it off, then we'll.
Electrify it,
Reflective tape on it. What?
electrify it. Put big high voltage on that thing. Everybody
All right.
touches it then,
Moving on.
please.
Sheet 205 is the second option for fenders. This is the same, this is the steel fender. It's roughly twice the price of the timber fender. We'll get into the cost here shortly, but it just shows you how that would be done. It's a steel pipe pile, and it has that UHM or HDPE sleeve over the top of it, you know, for a non-marring surface and so forth. And we have pricing for both of those that we're gonna go through.
That's HDEP or HDPE?
HDPE, high
PE,
density polyethylene.
Yeah, polyethylene,
And then they have UHMW,
Right,
which is
right.
ultra high molecular weight,
right, right.
HDPE.
Or us Highliners make wads.
Yeah. It's just more expensive, it's a higher density unit altogether. So that's what that is. Besides that, pretty much the proximity to the bull rail, everything else is pretty much the same on that. This has got, you know, it's got a pretty heavy HDPE skin on it, so maybe inch and a half or so, so it might be offshore a little bit, inch and a half more. Okay. And then of course the last sheet, 206, you've seen this before, but these are these end fender piles. They're just a mono pile, standalone pile, and what we try to do there is to just lengthen the dock face. And that's all we're trying to do there. So those stand off another 8 feet beyond the edge of the bull rail. And so you've seen that before. Those are quite similar to what's out at the drive down on the corner.
And what size are the pile?
These are 24-inch piles.
What do we decide the cost was?
Those are $20,000
A piece?
a piece.
A piece.
So the ladders were the first alternative?
Well, no,
No.
Alternate B?
not quite.
Okay.
But let's, I think we're ready to
I'm just
go
looking at
straight to
the-
that, because it's always an interesting part. So the money. That tells you what we have designed thus far, and this is what it's gonna cost.
Put it down on the,
Poster size.
Yeah. Well, it gets to be poster size, and it gets to be more complex the more additive alternates you build. And so, we don't wanna go overboard with the alternates, because when you do that, you can invoke some bitter confusion sometimes when you do that, when you're not careful. And especially when we're talking about, you know, fender versus steel, and you know, what gets deducted under one versus what stays in there. So we gotta be a little bit careful. But let me just explain how this is set up. So this is kind of a yellowish color there. And it describes a base bid, and then additive alternate A is dredging and upland disposal. Alternate B is the face beam with the timber fender piles. Alternate C is a face beam with the steel fender piles with the HDPE sleeves. Then alternate D are the end fender piles. So to answer your question about the ladders are included in alternate B and alternate C. Under this scenario, and then off to the right, in this, again in yellow again, you'll see all the, you have a bunch of prices in here, but there's a summation of each of these. And then what I've done is I've said in the far right there's a box, and it'll say, for instance, base bid 1.33 million. You see that? And if you were to do base bid plus alternate A, that's what that means, base bid plus alternate A. And if you added base bid plus A plus B, that's the next one. The next one is base bid plus A plus C, because you're either gonna do B or C, you're not gonna do both of those. One's timber and one's steel, so you make a decision there. And then then the last one is base bid A, C plus D. That's if you were to do the steel piles. So let's go through what's included in the base bid. So in the base bid, obviously, is the sheet pile bulkhead itself. We're gonna relocate that light pole. We have the safety rail, that 4-inch pipe rail that goes all along the edge and across the face, the scallops. We don't have a face beam in here. We have just a bare sheet pile cell with a pipe rail all the way around the sides and edges, and it's filled with rock. We've taken the armor rock off and we put it in the uplands. And that's, everything that's all that's in the base bid. It's the barest bones thing out of this whole thing, but the most essential part, and that's.
Does it have the little triangle plate that makes the face?
The
It
filler
doesn't.
slot.
No,
Filler.
actually, but we'd have to put that in.
Oh.
Yeah, that would have to be in this. Yeah, no doubt about it.
But,
I think I
yeah.
had the cost in it with the face beam, but that's really a minor,
Okay.
a small piece of the cost. But that would have to have those, the one in the middle, not the M's, but the one in the middle. So it's 1.128 roughly in construction. We do have 10% contingencies in each one of these items here. So there's 113,000 in contingency, and there's a line item for contract administration and construction inspection in there for each one of these. So it's a fully burdened project. What's not in here are the design costs, and the design costs aren't in here because they've already been removed from the unencumbered funds.
Yes.
So I got a report from Janet saying that, okay, we have $1.211 million remaining. Those are the grant funds remaining, and it's already got the design funds taken out of it. So we've got a grant of 1.211. So right now we're already over. We're at 1.33 million. So you're gonna need to come up with 120 grand or so just to build the base bid. Okay. Now, if you want to add the dredging to that, so you got to build the cells. You decide you want to add the dredging. That's alternate A, and that is another $110,000. And that's fully burdened again. I'm just talking total project cost. Okay. So base bid plus alternate A, you're at $1.44 million. If you want to then do the dredging and do the fender piles, and that's the order that I would recommend doing it, because it's very difficult to dredge around the piles. It's easier to take that whole thing down, get it out of the way, and then drive the piles afterwards. It can be done the other way, but it's just more cumbersome and slightly more expensive. So additive alternate B is the steel face beam and the timber fender pile system that they showed you. That's the cheapest fender option. That's $120,000 to put the face on with the fenders. So if you do A plus the base bid plus A and B, you're at 1.56 million. Okay. On alternate C, instead of doing the timber piles, you put the steel face beam on, but you do the steel fender piles. That's 160,000 versus 120,000 for the timber. That would add up to 1.660 million. And then an alternate D, if you put on those two end fenders, that adds another 51,000 when it's fully burdened, up to 1.65. So that's how I arranged it, talking with Glow on the best way to strategize for the alternates, to be able to have at least something that you can award, that's within striking range of your base bid, or of your, excuse me, the base bid is in striking range of your funding allocation of 1.21. So it's a stripped down version, and anything after that, obviously you're gonna have to come up with more money for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're really pretty close to the base bid if we don't spend any contingency money.
You are. Yeah, there's 113,000, so you pull that out, you're right there. You're right there.
So that's the way we decided to do it, was to be able to present to the assembly something that they couldn't hamstring us on and say, oh no, you can't go forward with this project because you're going to have to use some of borough money to do this. So this way we're positioning it strategically so that maybe we have this conversation perhaps a little further. We can go forward, move forward with this, go out to bid on it, and then we'll see what the climate is. Maybe we're going to be able to get, the base bid, in the perfect world, and half of alternate A and C, and only have to come up with, if we decide, and have that conversation with real numbers instead of having the conversation before we go out to bid about all these what ifs. I mean, you guys are highly level, knowledge level on this whole program. They're not so much. And so they have a lot of what ifs, a lot of, well, what if? So we're trying to answer a lot of those questions, I think, before we go to them, knowing that it's going to be it's gonna be,
How-
far, it's been a hard sell to get
Right.
to this point.
What borough money would we be using? Wouldn't we be using it out of our own budget reserves if we needed
Yes,
to?
of
And that's
course.
Harvard money,
You would assume
That's
that.
Harvard money.
Yes.
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to make sure they understand. It's
Well-
not gonna come off of Main Street.
No,
Because
no
that's what,
Harvard
when you
money.
say borough money, then they're thinking, taxpayers, and then all of a sudden you just,
Right,
because they don't know what you're talking about.
exactly.
So what do you have in budget reserves?
Just approximately 2
Okay.
million
Yeah,
on a broadcast.
okay. Okay, so that's, no, we're not borrowing any money.
No,
We have
no
we have a
borrowing
bulkhead to
of
build,
money.
one time build.
Well, at
So
some point
anyway,
you're gonna-
that's
you're
why
gonna-
we
at some point
positioned
you
it.
have to come up with that
Yeah.
to them.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
that's
They
why
should know
we
that
put
already.
it this out there this way. And I don't know that you wanna have that conversation until we know exactly what, you got 2 or 3 contractors sitting here
Right.
saying, we will build you the base and we'll
Right.
do this and this,
Right.
and we have these numbers.
Very
And then we can come
Yeah.
and have a work session with the council and says,
Yep.
hey, guys, we really wanna get a usable facility.
Well, it
Here,
makes
a
sense.
the base is, it's never gonna be any cheaper to do these alternates when you've already got the mobilization here, right? And so the conversation you then have with them is, we can afford the base with, and we think we can afford these other alternates, and there's never a cheaper time to do it
Right.
than now. And that'll add some,
And
some
we-
weight to the
And we could
conversation.
we could throw the armor rock in there too, because nobody wanted to think that far ahead,
So,
And it's just,
yeah,
it's just, in my mind, it's just, we either do it all or we don't do it at all.
and that would be great, but I worry because of the scheduling, and when the sunset of this money is, that we will spend another winter arguing about that, and then, so I'd rather
don't think so.
present it to them this way, and so that's why Dick and I came with it. So
No,
I
think
don't
it's
think we
great.
have
I
to go
think
down
it's
that
absolutely
road.
great. We should
So-
get some real numbers and then let's have a conversation. Yeah.
And we,
Yeah,
yeah,
this one's your preferred, is that correct?
No, I think the bottom one,
I would love to
1.6.
go,
Well, you're not gonna use
John,
steel.
I
No,
would
no, we're
love
not
to,
using steel,
no, I
whatever it
would
is.
love to have steel.
no,
But if,
so 1.6.
if we
C?
can't afford it, then
Or is
yeah,
it D?
the creosote is the way to go,
It
definitely.
would be alternate B,
B?
unless you wanted steel fender piling.
Exactly,
Right. So the highest price is the very bottom,
yeah.
and that's got everything in it, and including the steel.
Yeah.
So if you were to everything in it, but with the timber, it'd be merely the difference in between these two prices. So it would be
1.56.
you come down $40,000.
Yeah, about
Or
40,000.
one, or
You'd be at
1.6.
1.613 versus 1.653.
Yeah,
Okay.
So what,
And that's with the dredging in it too.
so now that's, yeah, we might have to replace a wooden fender piling once in a while. But, you're definitely gonna have to start keeping track of zincs and things. So what's the O&M on a steel piling versus, say, what's the service life out of a creosote piling versus a steel piling?
I mean, you hit.
We're not talking, but you're not talking creosote, you're probably talking
That treated, whatever that is,
the brown stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know how that
you can
stacks
get
up.
50 years out of that stuff if you don't beat them up, but
Yeah.
what happens to the timber is they break.
Yeah.
So you get mechanical damage
Yeah.
with them before they wear out.
Yeah.
If you had it as a support pile under a dock somewhere and it never had any abrasion on it, and you didn't ever have vessels pounding it or stuff like that, then, it's gonna last you 50 years.
It lasts a long time,
Lasts a long
and
time.
they're easy to replace,
Yeah,
really.
they are.
On the
but-
beach.
Yeah,
But
you just lean over there and pull
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, you could do that right here
Get
from the
Mike
beach.
down there to get it back in the same hole, and you push it down with an excavator.
So the steel pile is a stronger pile, so it takes more impact, obviously, but, this isn't a barge dock. We don't have, we're not slamming into them.
And it's relatively quiet in there,
Yeah,
Yeah.
always, in the current, there's not much current.
yeah.
It's usually a hard corner of a barge that catches a piling that just takes it with it. Where a round boat, you'd have to T-bone the thing at pretty good clip to.
If somebody was backing in there with a 58, steel 58 footer and grabbed one of
I just replaced
If they
2
do that,
piles.
You gotta get
Who
it, you
pays
gotta.
for the pile when you break them?
Hmm?
Who pays for the pile when someone comes in and comes in hot or?
Oh, that's all negotiable, Dick,
That's-
because you have to start figuring in
Well,
a
because the first time
depreciation on rotten
it gets
ones. I
cracked.
just went through this. I
Doesn't
just
break.
went through this, Jeff,
Okay,
with,
yeah.
with a guy tying up. He started the boat in gear. You got a 27-year-old piling, and he ran through two of them. Boom, boom.
Pulled them off, pulled.
No, and so what ends up happening is he breaks them at the mud line. We had to go out, pull them out, and then you can't drive a wood pile back into the same hole because they're broken. So you can't pull them out. So then you have to relocate the wood pile, and you have to put it into another. You have to put another bracket in up
Yeah,
top
put it
where
in.
it's going to drive into. So it's their pain in the ass, and it's not just like they're just all nice and clean. And a thing like this is, they're using them for springing. They don't last forever. These they're 10 feet apart. There's a lot of energy going in this one wood pile that they're going to wear out. We'll probably have to
So we're talking
replace them
40,000
every.
difference.
Well, we're going to have to probably
40,000
replace them. I
40,000.
would say maybe every
Wood
15 years.
And-
By
and-
the time
and
you
have
break
a
one.
HDPE.
welded connection at the top versus the pinned and
Yeah.
ripping through wood fiber. So you got a better connection at the top. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying, the ideal for us would be steel piling that you throw zinc
So
on
alternative
every
C then.
15 years, and boy, will last to the ends
So what
of
you're
time.
comparing is
So,
alternative B versus C.
Yeah.
120 versus $160,000.
Yeah. So 40,000
My
difference.
big question is if it really came down tight, I'd rather see go ahead with B than A, just because without ladders and something to tie up to, it's not all that. I think most people would rather wait for their once a day or window of tide than deal with the bare sheet pile.
And that's the conversation we can have after we have the numbers, I
Right,
believe.
right.
Because I don't think you're going
Right.
to get this perfect number. I
Right.
think you're going to get, these are not, you're not going to have contractors walk in. They're going to partially fund that, and they're not going to, the differences are going to be so different. So we may end up being able to afford, because when they bid them standalone.
Oh.
And so you can then sit down and say, hey, we're getting a better deal with that guy because we're getting,
Oh, okay.
I
I had the impression
so,
of an accumulated thing here with the running total. So
This is a cumulative.
I never saw a BB plus B.
You know,
I only saw BB plus A plus B, so
Right.
I didn't know how that works. But
Well, I think if you're only talking 6,000 for ladders, if we had some way we could put the ladder on the first
well,
bid.
if there's
you
no
know.
whaler to
yeah.
No, there's no
Go
way.
ahead.
So the idea was bare bones.
Yep.
And
To
you would
spend
say
the
to
grant
assembly
money.
that,
Yeah.
we gotta get some
Yeah.
motor tires
Yeah.
and we're gonna put a strap around that
Yeah.
bull rail and that's
I
what
mean,
we get.
realistically, that's
And no way
the
off the boat.
difference.
And no way
is,
off the boat.
You know,
if
how
the
the
Then you get the
assembly-
boat owner showing up going,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
If the assembly
it
is
was kind of a
going
purposeful
to,
way of
Sure.
doing it.
I think it's great, you guys. I think it's
Right.
perfect.
we wanted
Good way
to
to do it.
spend the base
Yeah.
I
bid,
think it's
and then we
doable.
can have
Yeah.
the discussion
Okay,
on
as
how
long as
we
that's
have
possible. I just
that.
didn't-
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
After.
perfect. Get,
Important.
And go to
get
them
this
and
thing.
beg for,
yeah.
And so
you know,
what we would
the
need to
added
do is to
alternates.
structure the bid schedule and the award of the bid based on the owner's selection of alternatives. We won't be giving them a prescribed priority of award.
Right.
We'll be giving them a base bid alone or a base bid
And these
plus
alternates.
any other
Yeah.
combination that the owner decides it wants.
Right.
But they do seem to be prioritized in a intuitive way as to what somebody thought was
That was me.
more luxurious.
It was more of how
That's
I.
not the right
How much
word.
money
Not
you got to
luxurious,
spend?
but just a logical way that I
Yeah.
thought.
How much
that-
you got to spend?
it's coming from an engineer's point of view that's sitting there, Bob, saying it makes sense to dredge before putting pilings in.
That I can see that.
That's the
Okay.
way
But I don't
look
think
at it.
did we dredging there those piling anyway, where the keel's way out from there. So I have a,
Exactly, and
You don't
I,
think what?
we would be dredging right next to the fender piling anyway, because the boats that are using this
Oh,
are,
because of the space.
their keel's way out there. So that's just these are some saving money thoughts. But I know the dredging.
Yeah, you don't need to dredge.
I can see how the dredging would be more of a concern for a
Canneries and all
engineer.
that. It's out.
We always-
6
well,
to
and
10 feet.
also you think about
Yeah.
things like steel piling versus wood piling. Wood pilings, you just kind of go in there and stab in, and they're I mean, especially after they've been broken once or twice, and we're in there and we're going down. I mean, we literally have, hey, Jimmy, how long is the piling that you have left over in your yard? And he comes in and says, hey, I got some 18-inch ones. Oh, that'd be better than the 12-inch ones. I mean, Dick's long gone, and I'm making deals, and all of a sudden I got a 55-foot piling on the, on the planet, and it makes sense to use that. Ideally, I know a 65-foot piling is what I need, but am I going to pay $15,000 to get one piling up here when I got a 55 sitting in my yard that's free, or for $350, or horse trading for it, which is what, is what it's going to end up happening. So, but if you have steel piling there, then that's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, I
Then,
wanted to add to that just a little bit. In the way I was thinking about the dredging and priority over the piles is because with a timber pile, you can only hit it so hard. And we have fairly dense clays out there. And so if it's only going to go in the ground like 15 feet before the pile shatters. So if we install that now without the dredging, and we go to dredge it later, we're going to be undermining that pile. So it's going to be a complete replacement of that pile. Steel pile, we can drive through that dense material deeper, and we can go down 10 to 15 feet below the ultimate dredge depth, where we can't do that with timber.
so yeah, so that plays into your conversation, about which one we
go.
go.
Option 3.
What was the what?
What were the depths? The natural depths right now?
Yeah, it's about a -5 at where the face of the. Let's just look at that together. It's right here.
-5 at 12 foot.
At 0 foot.
At 0 foot?
Yeah, so everything is
Oh, yeah,
relative to zero.
0 foot.
Everything relative to 0. Okay. So
-4, you got 1 foot.
yeah, so each of these lines is a foot.
Yeah.
And I have to take a real close look at it because it's kind of in a slope this way. But back over in here, for instance, I've got a -5. It might be -3 at this corner. So 3 feet below 0, -3. And then at this corner, it's more like a closer to 10, -10.
It seems like it's
Well, I was,
quite usable.
I was more leaning towards wooden piling, but I think I've been talked out of it.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were having so much
Because there's
trouble
only
with those.
$40,000 difference, and they won't break.
Well, and you think about the boats that are going to be using this facility, the smaller 40-foot classes, they probably won't. And what did they really have to go and have Charles come down
No,
and
they
lift
don't.
off?
Hardly.
They're going to the crane dock.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the Aleutian Dream, or you're looking
Adamant.
at one of the Adamant. They're horsing themselves in and out, and so it's just a different,
It'll be somebody's stern that hits,
yeah,
not the bow.
right,
Somebody's stern
or
backing in.
Or springing on it.
or springing on it,
Springing on it.
and then all of a sudden they do,
And
they
then you
wear
can
out. Spring
drive
piles
steel
wear out.
piling through all that and still dredge afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's important, I think, like Bob said.
Yeah, and once you have the pricing on the dredging, I might be off base here completely. There might be the fact that there's so little dredging here
Yeah.
that my unit price is just way too low. I'm at $50. Someone might say, yeah, it's $100 or something like
Oh.
that to even deal with that a little bit, because you do have to mob in, and it's a retooling, and you.
Well, you're assuming the dredging needs to go right up and include the piling area.
Yeah, got it
Maybe-
right.
But maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Dick,
you
that's-
know, it gets, Icicle got redredged, didn't they?
So did Ocean Beauty. yeah.
In Ocean Beauty, and they started how many feet off?
Well, they start several feet out before it's
But
just
they
a
cut it
slope.
vertically.
Yeah.
They did what's called a box cut. They went
Okay.
and they cut, and then this naturally slopes back.
Sloughs in.
It sloughs off, so it's
It's a difference,
the same thing.
yeah.
No way of dredging this from on the beach then? After you
Yeah.
get the sheet pipe,
Yeah.
which
That's
could-
what we're
it would be,
assuming.
it would be.
Build the cell
Excavation.
first, you can sit right on top of it and reach out there.
Gotcha.
With a clamshell and do
Oh,
it.
okay.
What's our plan with those spoils?
Sell it to Mike.
We were gonna make the contractor get rid of it.
Sell the
Well,
spoiled
how
land.
much did you say is available in your contingency funds?
She didn't say.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Adequate.
I mean, right now we have $2 million in savings.
Okay.
But there's other dedicated projects that you wanna do. I mean.
Oh, yeah,
which-
no, that's not it's not
And you want to
towards
leverage
this.
that money for
You
other
bet.
way, yeah.
Yeah, that's the start
But
of
what
our.
you could say is that
Mhm.
if you dug into your harbor funds, you could get a whole bunch. You could answer that question.
We
Yes, we
could
could
be
do
our
the whole
own
thing.
contingency fund, basically.
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
And if you add up everything that I have in here for contingencies, and contingency during construction is different than what you're talking about, but we run into unforeseen conditions. We run into a boulder the size of this room that we didn't know about. You know, we've got to have something that we can work with in the field to be able to continue to build the thing, right? So there's 112.
Well, please don't say that to Steve Giesbrecht. There's boulders out there waiting for us to sabotage every project we got out here.
Well, we did run into a couple boulders on North Harbor that cost some money to get rid of.
Yeah.
If you recall.
And it might have been
Don't
one I
talk
put
to
there.
me about, those are the
There's
things that kept me up at
$150,000
night.
worth of contingency in these estimates.
In the whole package.
Yeah, in the whole package.
What was that figure? 300,000?
150.
Well, what's our next step forward? And I
Okay.
think we all kind of like the 95%.
Well, I guess what I wanted to talk about is, do you like the order? Do you like not just the order, but the fact that we have broken it up in this way with 4 alternates? Does that make logical sense to you guys?
Yes, it does to me.
Okay, all right. In terms of order, we're gonna make this whatever you guys want to, so I don't think it matters really in terms of A, B, C, or D, so,
Yeah, I think we make that decision once
okay.
once
I'm-
we get the bids back.
Just personally, I'm leaning pretty strongly for the steel piling after thinking about this. For the 40,000 we save, I think we're gonna end up spending that within my lifetime real fast.
Do you want me to get rid of the timber?
Well, I was just wondering with that,
I mean, it's already
We can
designed.
leave it in.
might as well bid it.
if we all, yeah, but if we all want that, do we want, yes, it's just,
Right.
yeah, do we want someone else to make that decision for us?
No,
or
I
do we-
think
do we
I
wanna
think you
make-
Well,
guys
that's-
make a recommendation. I think you look at see what it is, and you make that recommendation to the
Okay.
assembly.
But is
and
this
then-
gonna be confusing for the assembly to look at the first
No.
option? And then say, well, explain this to me, and you guys want option D?
I mean, we could get rid of one
$100,000
option, we
difference.
could simplify
We
it
don't
by
know what we
25%.
want until we get numbers.
Yeah.
We wanna go out to bid, of course,
Okay, so
we
you wanna
would,
get a bulkhead.
we
I mean,
wanna
if
get a
these
bulk.
boxes are
I
confusing,
wanna
I can
get,
cut that off, and you guys can add them up however you wanna add them up.
Yeah, I don't think I would worry about this with the assembly. They're not gonna be bothered with this.
I think, we're bidding
too small
something
numbers.
and we've been pretty,
They're used to bigger numbers.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got budgets coming up.
Okay.
You know, we're talking
guys
about
like-
cutting,
I'm
we're
fine
talking
with-
about cutting
Yeah.
1.6 million.
I'm
out of
not as
budgets,
interested
you
in
know.
the timber
Not
as I once
adding,
was.
you know.
yeah, thank you. Just,
Yeah.
and the reality
we're not
is,
talking about
because
them,
like
but-
you look at the crane dock, just to
We're not
follow
talking
that a
about
little
their
further,
budget.
we have multiple sets of wood
No, no,
piles that
Oh,
lots are
yeah.
getting
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
When you have
Yeah.
one every
Yeah, I-
10
I-
feet, that one is gonna be a real stress point, so.
Okay, thank you for those comments, appreciate that, but,
As long as you don't come asking us for any money.
there was a question with regard to what would it cost to add a third cell?
Oh, just humor me. Just throw one number out there, Dick, and let's move on.
This is this idea.
Yeah,
So
What number is that?
we would add
Yeah.
another 31.35
Yeah.
feet, okay. So it's gonna be about $400,000.
Okay, that's all we needed to know.
If we were just looking at the base bid only.
Yeah.
If we were and that's no fenders or anything, so
Yeah.
if we extend the dredging,
Yeah,
if we add fenders or anything, it's about closer to $500,000.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
all
the
you had to
cost
say.
of
You could have
adding.
called me back and told me that.
Right.
I didn't know that was you.
I would have never brought it up.
Talking about $2
You just tell me
million.
$500,000, you know, forget it,
Yeah.
you know.
But
Yeah.
we could name it
Yeah,
after someone.
I'm not dying on that hill. Only if I pay for it.
So $400,000 to $500,000.
Okay, yeah, that's all I was curious.
All right.
Because my point was gonna be, it's never gonna be cheaper than
Well, I
to
agree
make it
with
longer
you.
down.
I totally agree
Yeah,
with you.
and so as long as we're all settled in our mind that this is never gonna go any further than this in our lifetime, then that's okay.
But if you are planning to go with
Yeah.
it, then
Yeah.
it gets into the efficiency of using
Yeah.
2 end cells
Right.
now versus what you could have done if you would have had
Right,
done it now.
right. And to me, that's the way I would have operated. I would have said, okay, let's just shoot for that 100-footer, and that is it. We're not gonna do the 300 like we originally planned, because it just runs into way too many logistics with the
I
workload
can
and with
easily see having
the
another
drive down
30
and all that
feet on
stuff,
here
you know.
and just being done with it. I
And
mean,
just be
to
done
me, it
with it.
seems a little small,
Yeah.
the 2-cell dock, but a
Yeah.
3-cell dock.
So you could add that to the bottom.
Like, we could do
Maybe
another
C,
alternate,
D,
I mean,
E.
it
Z, I
could be
think it'd
that.
be Z.
You know, I'd be curious, I mean, what does it cost us to have that bid out? I mean, you've already got the numbers, don't you? Or do you have, I mean,
Well,
how
I
much
have
more would
to
it cost?
I gotta prepare
the
designs
document,
and all
okay.
that for it, so there's gonna be a little more added design cost at this point to do
Well,
that.
then
But
that almost seems
but that's all
unrealistic.
included in that
Yeah.
400 to 500. That was total project cost.
Okay.
It's not in addition to that.
Right, okay.
So I've got contingency in there, I've got
Yeah.
everything else that I had in these numbers, CA.
We could be
and inspections.
surprised too, I don't know.
Well,
I
I
mean, the
think
whole
there
thing-
might be some hungry contractors, the way
Yeah.
things are slowing down,
Yeah.
maybe they,
It- You know.
I mean, if the whole thing came in at 1.7, let's just throw that number out there instead of 2 million, all of a sudden that makes that maybe attractive to,
Yeah.
especially if we came up with some method of paying back the budget reserves through, harbor rate increases, because this is something that people want.
You save money on steel piling,
Yeah.
the end ones.
I mean, I think as long as you have a way of paying it off, I don't think people
I'm
really
gonna,
care.
you say it's gonna be about 2.15 million. is
Yeah,
about where
yeah.
it would be.
But, I mean, we thought this drive-down dock here was gonna be way more expensive than we thought too. And of course, I understand the perfect storm and somebody else building exactly blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah, yeah.
We piggyback, but you just never know.
Yeah, on
You
that
ju-
one,
I mean, you
Ketchikan
just
got
never
the-
know.
Got the raw deal, and you guys got the good deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just don't know unless we throw it out there. If we don't throw it out there, we'll never know what the price is. So, I mean,
Totally agree with you.
but I mean, that's if you think
Just
it's,
someone needs to give me direction on what it
Is
is.
that
well,
some-
that's
is that
just
a
my,
road we wanna go down?
suggestion.
I'm not opposed to adding.
Kurt
it.
can't make a motion.
Yeah, I
Would it
can't
be
make a motion on
alternate
this.
D- Alternate, E, B, C, D, E. Is that how you do it, or?
Wouldn't that have to have all its other corresponding
Yeah,
alternates?
I have to go, it's gonna be a redo of
It
it.
would
At
be
this
different
point, for
because
me,
you
I've
wouldn't
gotta
have-
go back through and restructure all the plan stuff, so I need to think about how to do that, but I can come up with a way to do it. I mean, I'm not worried
Yeah,
about
because
that.
you'd like to say you wouldn't have two end pieces.
Right, so I'd have to have two separate dock designs, one if you do it, and one if you don't do it. And then it gets to be a little bit problematic with the bidders, So I tried to steer a little bit clear of where I might add confusion, because these guys bid the numbers and they go, oh, that's not what I thought the plan said, and then you automatically end up in this.
Well, we don't wanna,
So
Problem.
here's where you have to step back
Yep.
from this conversation and say, okay, how willing are you to stand there and support Kurt when he says, I feel for these reasons, we need to look at a 90-foot dock, 100 feet of space to tie up, and we're gonna have to dig into the harbor reserves between 600,000 and 800,000 to do this. And it will put you behind on perhaps a project out at Scow Bay, or it will put us behind on doing some other things. It's, that's a conversation that you have to have as a board. I mean, sure, if I got the public support to do this, I mean, that would be great. But there are other things going on in the harbor that our reserves, are going to be dedicated towards. We're just finishing our project, our comprehensive plan that addresses the waterfront plan, and we've identified, and I have to honestly say, with the engineers going through, I'm a little surprised, happily so, that they are I think conservatively, but things look better than what I figured they would find on some of our facilities. So we do have time on our side, so to speak, to build up some of these reserves, to attack, rebuilds of the South Harbor. We're in pretty good shape, but of course we could spend all this money, quicker than what we have right now. But those are the kinds of things we have to probably look at, lengthening the ramps in the South Harbor. We have to look at addressing some of these issues. We're doing okay right now, and we can sit here and live in the, in our facility, but that's where that money has to come from somewhere.
we don't know if we're gonna still have raw fish tax either, because of in limbo of what we might end up getting. So then there's a heck of a lot of maintenance that's gonna have to start happening in the south.
Well, but what I'm saying is that I was surprised to see that no, we're not looking at tomorrow. We're looking at 15 years.
Oh, wow, yeah, gives you plenty of time.
I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm always concerned about the $10,000 sort of stuff, If you were to redo all this stuff, what's it gonna cost us? to do that.
To design the third
Yeah,
cell and all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. It's probably 20 or 30 grand.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
In my own mind, that's not worth it, but I mean, but if it's something that, I mean, just to get it out there to see how much it's gonna cost.
we're getting a dock base bigger than the one that's
Yeah.
being used now to lift the bait houses off.
Yeah. Mhm. Is that
A
what
lot
it is?
bigger.
Is that
Yeah,
what the
the end of the
city-
Petro dock where they actually work, and they work endo.
It's just a little.
They work
tiny
endo
space.
off the end of the, no,
Yeah.
to,
Yeah,
and it's bigger than that,
yeah,
by quite a bit.
yeah.
I'm good with going with this.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, I wasn't gonna come here to die on that hill because,
But it's,
not-
it's the conversation of
Yeah.
if we want to be able to tie a tour ship up in there, do we want to be able
Coast Guard
to?
cutter.
A Coast Guard cutter, there's
They're
your,
probably pretty deep.
that kind of
I
thing.
bet those guys-
If you,
They're high-speed endurance.
these are things
High-speed
that you can
endurance, so they're not
talk,
that deep.
papers, talk is cheap, and,
Yeah.
maybe that's something.
But Dick, does that come from a different fund though, that design fund? Doesn't come out of this budget, right? We
Well,
got a
it
grant for
it
that.
would
The
other
current
grant.
design is already.
Budget.
Is already budgeted for, so it would.
It'd
have
just
to
be
come with-
additional.
That's
Okay.
almost the cost of the steel piling
Yeah,
right
well, I
there.
know,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, like I said, I
So,
wasn't gonna come
but,
here and die on it.
is this something that you think about and?
Well, no, I do, but then I always kind of think, I just, you all know that I'm in the 35 percentile design of my house, and this is what we want, and now we're gonna go back to it, and this is what we're gonna get, because you just,
Downsizing?
yeah, we're downsizing, yeah, before we even put it, to send it out, so, yeah. So I'm fine with this. If everybody's aware that we're never gonna add to this, because we're not gonna come up with the $4 million to add 31 feet 15 years from now, because, so, as long as we're satisfied that that's what it's gonna, that we can live with this, then I'm good with it. I'm really good with it.
If you're ever gonna do
Yeah.
it now,
Yeah.
now's the time.
Yeah, well, yeah,
course,
of
that
course.
was the time.
Like the Armor Rock, that's a prime example for another, for another roughly $500,000, we could be completely done with this project
Yeah.
and be done with it. And that was all you're ever gonna get is 100 feet. You're done.
So, do we need a motion for this meeting?
Depends on whatever the board wants to.
If we go with-
you wanna,
what's been presented here,
yeah.
Yeah.
what do we need the motion?
Yeah, or
Well,
you-
we
or
need
clean.
is, all we need here
Yeah.
is, he's good, he's designing it. We've already paid for his design, so even if we never drive a piling, we will have a shelf-ready project, ready to bid. So we don't need to, there's no, if you wanna change if you want to change his direction, then you need to start throwing out, motions.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, he's gonna deliver us a shelf-ready thing, and he's gonna say, okay, Globe, ready
100%.
to, you're ready to take it to the assembly to say,
I'm for
here's
that.
this, let's
Yeah,
throw it to the
I
public.
agree.
And with this.
Same here.
With this,
I like it as long as it's possible to do it without dredging if we have to.
That is possible.
and that's with the steel.
Well, and thinking about that, maybe that's what we wanna do here on this, is flip the steel pile with the timber pile, and put the steel as B.
Dredging is,
We're already gonna tell the contractor that you get to award any of these
Okay.
alternates or none of these alternates
Okay.
in the order that you prefer.
Okay, and just as
doesn't
long as
matter.
the assembly knows
Yes.
that these are in no random
Right.
alternate A, B, C, there's not a
If you, I can easily swap these, this is
Yeah.
no big deal if you want.
I know, I was just
Want me
thinking
to do
that
it before you go to the
they would
assembly?
look at it and go, oh, well, you want, this is the first one, and this is the second
No,
one, and this is
no.
the third one, and
We'll make sure
you've
it's clear.
already
Yeah, if you
prioritized
make,
We'll
that.
make sure it's
make
clear.
sure it's
It's
clear.
clear.
So,
This-
I don't know,
these are
I
just-
mean,
these are
break
just
out
the different
alternate A
options.
out of that, off that bottom.
I'd put it down below C. I don't know, that's what I would intuitively, what would seem most appealing to me would
There's
go
$110,000.
B, C, A, D. I don't know.
Base
see,
bid,
I'm A, C, B, D. Because if you're gonna go steel, you wanna dredge, so you might as well dredge
No, you
first.
don't have to dredge.
That was
You
steel.
can dredge
Oh,
after.
okay.
With wood,
Yeah.
with wood you have to
Yeah.
dredge.
Okay,
That's
gotcha,
what-
gotcha,
you can
gotcha.
dredge
Okay,
easier
so
after.
yeah,
Yeah.
C, A, B, D.
okay, so should I reorganize this? Number one.
You know what we probably should have with these things here? After you get everything settled, Dick, we have a work session with the assembly before we even bring this to the assembly. So they totally understand what this is all about. Because when Cindy was sitting here, when Mark was sitting here, and it was explained to them while they were sitting here, they got it. If they sit up there, they may not get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did, yeah. I mean, they understand that
And
we
it
need
actually
this.
it takes an hour, actually,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
right.
easier to do it like
Yeah,
this than it
yeah.
is.
I think we
the
should do a work
presentation.
session
Yeah,
with them.
everybody ask questions.
You know,
Yeah.
we could throw one together before the 7th of December, if we could get all this back, and we could explain it to them.
So I'd feel better if A was anywhere but where it is now.
Yeah, I agree.
Just,
Bob.
Yeah.
just so nobody gets the wrong idea that that is our first priority after the base bid.
Right.
Okay, so what, so it'd be C is your first priority, so
Yeah.
you want that to be A, right?
Mhm.
And then what would be the second priority?
I think the dredging.
Yeah.
B,
Make that a B.
A would be B.
Third priority,
Then I
Is
don't
the
really
fender.
care.
And then
I mean, is the,
And
is
piling
the
is
timber.
last.
Yeah.
and then D would be timber fence. The only problem is this is not gonna match how it is shown in the drawings now.
I don't think they wanna look at drawings.
Yeah, so if
They're
you go back,
just looking at
go
numbers.
back to here, oops,
Yeah.
and you go add an alternate A, it's not gonna match.
Yeah, it's
that.
all right. I don't think that's a problem, Dick. They're not that smart.
Well,
For instance, go to sheet 201.
Because it'll just be Greek to them. It'd be
Yeah.
like me sitting down looking at a Forest Service plan that, you know.
well,
that
you're
they can
gonna
in our
get,
mold.
you're gonna talk a little bit about schedule,
Yeah.
and there's probably time to,
If you go to sheet 201, on the upper right-hand corner, there's this drawing that shows dredging, additive alternate A. So what we have to do as engineers is we have to go through and make sure that we list and put a limit of work around each of these alternates. So right now, it's all set up how we currently have it. So I have to go back through and restructure the drawings.
Which is how much
And-
that gonna
and
cost,
that's-
Dick?
And when it
That's
goes
a
out to bid, it
no-cost
has to
thing.
be that way.
Oh, no cost,
Yes,
okay.
yeah, it's gonna
They'll
cost
have
you
to be done
anything.
anyway.
I'm just saying that, do you want me to do that now before we go to the assembly as well, or?
yeah.
When are we going to the assembly?
I don't think we'll go to the assembly before January, do you think?
I think we need to have a work session with them so they totally understand where we're
They're
coming from.
gone
Well,
now.
that would be nice to have too.
So what's our answer,
The work
Dick?
session.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Just
if
delegate
you
it.
guys are hard on this thing, and if you don't think it's gonna go back,
No.
I think we just leave it, Dick, and it's easily explainable, that this is the absolute cheapest
This
it could
is
possibly
super
come.
easy for me
But
to
then
do. I
what
can
you're
do
gonna do
this
is you're
in an
gonna get a
hour
bunch
or
of people
two.
in here going saying, but that's totally unacceptable. A is totally unacceptable because there's no place to tie up, and there's no way of using it because you can't get off your
mean-
boat.
you mean the base
Then-
bid.
Yeah, base
Base
bid,
bid.
yeah, totally. What
Which is what
we're
we
doing
want.
is, we're just saying, this is how we're looking at it. And then this is what we have to add on to it to make it functional. How far down this list of function, are you gonna allow us to go, for the most part? Because we have to make it
I can get
functional.
this back to you right away.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of the drafting and
Yeah.
stuff,
But then you don't have to mess with any of your plans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just
But I-
start
but
out by saying this is not a hierarchy during the work session.
Yeah.
Work in progress.
But they
Yeah,
don't
right.
most of them are not big boat people, and they don't understand spring
No,
lines
not boat
and
people,
that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And
No, but we can explain it to them. It can be explained to them. I can take them for a boat ride.
well, and then it ends up on the front page of the news,
I have
I
that.
mean, and it's
Yeah.
just like,
I have
no,
one more
it's just
handout.
better to
Oh,
take your time and do it right. Because we have to
Oh,
go
schedule.
through the scheduling on the front page of his,
So this is just a Gantt chart, there's the project schedule, shows what we've done to date and where we are. We're currently at line item number 4 on this. It's a work section, and we're reviewing 95% starting today. I was saying, okay, we have a work session, but typically a few extra comments come in over the following week, so by, the 4th of December, we're hoping to have any final comments you can have back to us, okay? After that, we've got to get bid ready, and so we're saying by mid-January, we'll be ready to advertise. We could be ready a little bit ahead of that, but I definitely recommend against advertising over the holidays.
yeah.
You won't get any bidders, you'll get nothing but complaints, and you'll end up extending anyway, so I'm saying by January 15th, we'll be ready to advertise the project.
So, but can we have a work session before the end of the year? We're talking about this work session.
Sure.
you know?
We should. Yeah,
Yeah, that would be nice.
yeah. We absolutely should.
How does the process work with the assembly? I mean, nothing goes out to bid unless they are on board, right? So,
Right.
Yep.
so when would
But
that?
the work session will get them,
Yeah,
in the loop,
that seems like a real
Engaged.
important thing.
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
thought they were when they were here.
Yeah, and I think all your guys' opinions is gonna weigh heavily on their decision, you know?
yeah, that's priority.
So would you invite the entire assembly in?
Sure. Well, we invite them,
I would
whether they're
hope
gonna
so.
come or not.
Well, some of them.
Is this something that we want Dick to be at?
He's the-
Probably would not
Because he
hurt.
does
He's the
a
guy that can answer the
fabulous
question.
job
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, I'd be happy to come.
If you're available, I think that would
Okay.
really,
Just, you'd have to kind of tell me when.
I
because
won't
it's-
be until the middle of December. I mean,
That's a good
15th.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
What
The
date?
13th is when I get back.
Oh, so,
A couple weeks.
Oh, I know we
early
have,
the first, third week of the month.
I know we have an assembly meeting on the 7th, and then we have something shortly thereafter, work
because
session,
it'll
some kind of
have
thing.
to go to the assembly to put out to bid.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
why it needs to be,
Right.
we gotta keep,
So,
Fresh.
then we have an assembly meeting on the 21st, so we wanted to have it before then?
Yeah.
what are the,
Let's do
what
it
are the
before
notice
that.
requirements for, does the
Yeah.
work session need to be noticed?
Yeah,
yeah,
3 days.
73 days, yeah. So today's the 20th, so,
Can we do it the week of the 14th?
The week of,
That'll
yeah,
work.
the week
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Next Sunday,
December.
13th.
Yeah.
I can't do it the 17th.
So the 14th to the 16th, something like that?
The 16th is gonna be tough. I have a
Okay.
huge public meeting in Juneau that I actually need to.
Can you do it
starts
Mon-
at 10
can you do
a.m.
it
on
Monday?
Thursday. Yeah, I can do it the 14th.
14th?
Let's do that.
Should we request, could you put in a
will-
formal request to have?
Yeah, on the 7th
sometime-
of December, I will,
And then
I will
they'll-
ask for a
That'll be
work
the Monday
session.
before the next meeting, which is the
Right.
21st.
Right.
That would
Yeah,
work.
and then we could, and then that, at that point, could we get it on the agenda then for
On the 21st, yes.
The 21st?
I bet we could. We'll push for it.
So,
That'd be great.
What if they said
Unless we need to
no?
convince
What
them.
is a backup plan? Could we say, what's the next one? The meeting is gonna be the 21st. Could we say, you sure it's gonna be the 21st?
Yes.
There's no cancellations of
Not yet.
meetings?
Mark
Okay.
said right now we're just gonna stick with that in case, you know, and
Okay,
we'll see what it
so
looks like when we get
could we
closer.
say work session prior to the meeting on the 21st?
Sure.
Two as our backup?
Sure.
Either the 14th or
We'll
the
try to pigeonhole,
21st?
we'll try to pigeonhole into a,
Would you be available to that, either the 14th and the
Christmas Eve.
21st?
yeah, I think I can do the 21st as well.
Could
After
you?
Yule
this.
bucking.
Yeah,
Closer you get to the 24th.
My kids are coming for the holidays.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
I don't exactly remember when they come, but I know that the 21st gives me at least 4 days before Christmas, so
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either the 14th or the 21st, and then, so would I arrive on the morning flight, and could we do it like then?
Mhm.
And then I'd have 2
Yeah.
or 3 hours, and then I could jump on the afternoon flight, go back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know why not. We'll
Okay.
push for that. Worst case scenario. So you wanna do that on the 14th and the 21st, or do you wanna just shoot for the 21st?
Either day, whichever works for you guys.
Okay, and we'll shoot for
Because I don't know
that.
I don't know what day they're, at some point, are we switching to the,
If that doesn't work, just tell me, I mean,
Yeah,
I could.
yeah.
I could
Can you
come, yeah.
overnight the 14th?
Yeah, I can overnight
Okay.
14th, easier. than
I don't
21st.
think, I mean, most of the assembly like to meet in the day versus in the evening. You know, so I think that would be ideal, is to do a daytime meeting versus
So
a,
like noon till 2,
yeah,
is that enough time? I think so.
oh, I think so. Yeah.
That's perfect time for me, because I think that flight leaves again around 3.
Yeah, and then that, you know, it just tells the assembly that we're really,
And we're pretty caught up with what will go on,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah,
educating them. to what-
yeah, and
where
I
we
think
are.
we've, you know, the beautiful thing is that Dick has, you know, described to us many times the beauty of the sheet pile, but that still is a conversation. We have beautiful handouts, and we'd need time to explain the beauty of the sheet pile in this situation. You know, in
I'll
this
pick this up later.
situation, in this
Get that from TSA
context,
either.
was gonna say.
versus, you know, versus other things that people are gonna toss out there, well, have you thought of? And we vetted all of that, and it needs to come from the engineer, rather than us saying, Dick says, you know,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
Yeah.
You know, those
It's important.
pictures you had out west or wherever, I saw a bunch of pictures and what,
Yeah, I have all
that
those.
was, that might be nice for people to see at the work session.
We have those beautiful handouts of, you know, that shows where they are, and that they've
That
built hundreds of these,
Yeah,
and
right,
that
big
there
block,
are,
go on and on.
there's a dozen sheet pile, this kind of is, I mean, ours is not going to fail because they're everywhere. You know, it's not, that we're not a, this is a proven design,
So,
and that's.
so I think one of the things that you're gonna have to do on your level, Gloria, is to make sure that your money's accounted for in the budget reserve. don't come in and say, well, we might have projects, you know, and that we may need, don't, because that'll throw it. If you say, we
have
can
money to do this.
earmark this much, you know, out of here without affecting our, but you know what I mean? I mean, if you can do that. And then, so that they could look at that confidently, you know, whether you
Well,
can or you can't. you
The
know,
beauty
it's
of
just,
it,
you know,
again, is
yeah.
that you guys have homework
Yeah.
to look at
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
waterfront plan, and and I've sent you all the condition report. You gotta be able to read through that, so they're not just hearing it from me.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have looked at this, and you can say, you know, we feel like we can allocate
Have-
a
have-
$250,000 for this.
Yeah, it's just have a couple $100,000 above and beyond what, or whatever we think the base bid's gonna be.
We also will know what this year's raw fish tax is.
Yeah.
I've been
By then.
begging Jody.
When is that? Soon?
Well, it was supposed to be out in October, and it still didn't come out in, before Jody left, and so the check should be downstairs, but I don't get to open that envelope.
Okay, so where are we at now? You're done? or-
Mr. Chair, I have a 4 o'clock appointment,
Okay.
and so I apologize for having to leave early.
Yeah, I think we're just about done. We were
Yeah.
gonna discuss this Coast Guard element of.
Yeah.
Do you let John, go?
Yeah,
Oh, pardon me?
you have to go.
Yeah, I'll have to run.
So we're at the point now that we'll just leave it to Kurt to try and, to get a work session together. Either the 14th or the 21st.
Okay.
Dick is gonna reorganize, that should be enough time to do something.
Well, give them to the
You guys can,
people that want.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna bring those back to the assembly, right?
No.
No.
No, no, no,
No.
no, 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 no.
But I do
Too
have
much
one last
information.
question that you guys never answered. Back to that light pole. You want me to go look into what it takes to take that light pole down, get another light pole with a mast arm to give lighting onto the dock? Now that you know what all the numbers are. I don't know what it's
So
gonna
to need
cost.
a bigger pole because of,
Probably a different pole with a different arrangement of the
Longer.
mast arms. That's all. You know, I'm gonna guess that's gonna be, maybe 20 grand or 15 grand.
I think we should look into
I
it.
think we'll regret it if we don't,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
along
Just
the,
find a place to hide it in there, Dick.
So I gotta.
Don't make it its own separate alternate.
I gotta
Yeah.
have a mark.
Okay, yeah, no, no. Yeah,
2 grand or something.
You still got a point?
yep.
We do.
Yeah, we do. We don't really have anything any action.
Vote on
Talk
anymore,
about
yeah.
the, Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
really helpful.
I appreciate it.
that's very nice, tight, 95%.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm gonna
Yeah.
box these up and put them in that box there, and then
Okay.
they'll be here. and
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
pick them up when I
Yeah.
come back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
When this is all done, can the board members have sections to?
There's gonna
No,
be
it's
all
gonna
kinds
say
of-
like,
There's gonna be all kinds of cutoffs.
There's gonna be a lot of pieces.
one's gonna say Nancy Strand, one's gonna say, yeah. It's gonna-
Yeah.
Okay, there isn't any new business, unless somebody had any new business, and, communications for the Coast Guard discussion that Kurt had, with, you know, we heard at the assembly meeting, that there was some direction that they were looking from the board to make recommendations or to think about what we can offer to entice the Coast Guard to bring.
I think what they want to do is they just want you guys to put it on your radar and start thinking about it. We're not going to come up with all the solutions at this meeting about what is it that we can have, what does this community have to offer, or what can we throw out there, you know, to try to entice the Coast Guard to even consider, you know, Petersburg with one of the new 154s. So that's basically the gist of it, you know.
Well,
But we need to come up with kind of like
I
a formal.
certainly hope, you know, just as staff, I hope that they're asking every board to come up with. I don't know if we have anything in the harbor, you know, per
We have a
se,
bunch of Armor Rock.
without special, you know, without special, dedicating a special project to build them. We don't
Right,
have
no.
land to give them. We don't have, I mean, within
we
the
got-
harbor, we don't.
Well, what about the bait shed area now, behind the depot?
Okay,
I mean,
12 feet
I mean,
of this, you
whatever
know.
it is, you know, but, you know,
I mean, that's not gonna do, I mean, they're looking for
Yeah.
a 154,
Yeah.
you know, what's 15 feet extension on the
well,
back
no,
of
no,
their
no, no,
yard?
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
think
no. Where the bait
that's-
sheds are now, it's more than 100, that's more than 15 feet.
One of his big-
But
Yeah.
that's already kind of
Well, yeah.
With who?
earmarked for use
Who?
for putting boats if they put the,
If, you
Well-
know, but, I mean, I would rather have a 154 in here than maybe Lure will get to the point of,
Well,
putting
are they,
boats
we
there.
don't even know if they're gonna need space.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if it's offered
Here's,
to them.
here's a question I've
Yeah,
got.
yeah.
Ask the Coast Guard, what kind of things you need for one?
Yeah, right.
We can lengthen the
Yeah.
dock, no
Yeah.
problem, that's not an issue really.
Yeah. But I think Bob just thought that because, it's gonna affect the waterfront, that he thought he would just start with you guys and see what you could brainstorm. And think about it. You don't have to come up, like I say, you don't have to have
Right.
any answers right now. Just think about what it is.
Well, I
you
think,
know.
I mean, but the
I think
question
what-
I asked, I think is important for us
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
council to know.
Yeah, yeah.
What do they need?
Right.
Yeah,
That was the same
yeah.
thing I kinda
Yeah.
mentioned up there, that I got reported on, is that, as soon as we know what they need, it'll be
We
easy
know
for us to
housing.
address
Everybody
it.
knows that right now.
Yeah.
We could
Yeah,
We
Right.
know they're gonna need housing.
build
Well, they've
houses.
got, they've got those boats other places already.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, you're looking at their own facility, I would say out maybe in Scow Bay, you extend that jetty, you get them a nice tie-up spot, somehow we negotiate a deal with the state, DOT building pretty soon, they got a beautiful, we've built a bypass road, all that kind of stuff. Giving them, I don't know, I think that would be, real, Petersburg is the center of Southeast, make Petersburg your hub, blah, blah, blah.
Here's a development area where you can build housing.
Right,
Up by the
that is
ballpark.
owned by the
Yeah.
borough,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
you
those
can
are
see
the
that chart
kinds
up
of
there that
things.
shows you all the different pieces
Yeah.
that are platted
Yeah.
without
Big
any
push for
houses
Coast
on it
Guard
yet.
Consolidation too. or
Everybody
any
is,
Coast
Oh.
Guard moorings or
Yeah.
anything.
Revenue.
yeah, and Ketchikan and Juneau kinda have and Sitka, of course, have the corner on the market when
Mhm.
they're, so I don't know if there's, right now, we have,
We do have Scow Bay,
well, we have a portion of Scow Bay.
Yeah.
but I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah. Well, I guess we did, we need to find out what their mission is for
At least,
Southeast.
especially the.
Let's find out what their mission
the
is,
water, the mooring side of
Yeah,
it. What,
right.
Right.
what do
Right.
they usually need?
Right. I mean, I think we can pretty much just send them a blank check and say, you let us know what we can do for you and we'll do whatever we can.
Did we get one of the
and that's our official
commanders or
statement.
something to come and talk to us about
I
it?
don't think anybody's gonna commit to anything.
How many sons
We
do you
I don't
have-
think they
How
know.
many Coast Guard guys are in your family?
Yeah, right.
There you go.
There you
Too.
go.
But
Have
none of
more
them are
pretty
high enough.
girls,
But
have more
none of
pretty
them are
girls.
up
Are
high
they
enough.
paying their dues?
Yeah, but none of them are up high enough to give me any, credible information.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think that Coast Guard thing is a grand and glorious, but
Yeah.
everybody's doing that, and
Yeah.
what do we have?
Right.
I had the same conversation with support organizations that were trying to forecast what was going to happen with the oil industry, and calling. I had a year of calls, regular calls about, what do you have in way of storage facility? They're just calling. They don't know where Petersburg is, but they know it's in Alaska. And is there anything you have that could support that industry? Big blocks of land, places for ships to tie up and load and unload that's only halfway to California. Not, that kind of stuff to support the oil industry. That, just land along the waterfront, and I could say, well, we have a little bit of postage. But we're talking big time stuff, and they're just doing inventory, and that's kind of what the Coast Guard, I think, is,
I got the
is
impression it's like we need to slash the 110 footers and then we'd be out of luck. I don't know.
Then they'd be gone?
That's my concern. Is
More housing.
No more 110s in Southeast, and then
That's the plan.
we're going to be scrambling.
But they're not really
That's
sure-
worth millions
Or-
of dollars for this town.
or
And
without.
genetically,
Without
it's,
the
it's
Right.
important
Sure.
to have a
Right.
Coast Guard. So it's
right.
Genetically, yes.
it's
Very intelligent children, by the way, I might add.
Well, we have.
But I take credit for that.
We have the federal lobbyist working on this. He reports to the to me, very regularly on it, and it is on the radar. And
So-
we've been talking about it for 10 years
Yeah.
with Sebastian, and he's having that conversation all the time. And to the point where we had engineers here about 7 years ago, looking at that facility and what it would take. They actually liked the Petro dock design and the float, and they thought, boy, that would be the ideal float. And so there were 10
For
people that came to
154
town. Who knows? For a 400 footer. They thought that's an ideal, and could we get, okay. And so, but the climate has change. That was 7 years ago. Here we're still talking, we're still having that same conversation. So,
I mean, maybe what we're asking for is what are our assets here? That's all. Let's, I mean, do we have 3 acres we can give them behind the depot? Do we have, housing? Do we have, you know what I mean? I mean, that's out of our range, but I think what he was asking is, like, looking along the waterfront, what do you got? I mean, just be realistic about it. Say, yeah, we got 3 acres in Scow Bay, we got 2 acres here.
we don't
And that's all
have
we have.
much.
Well, I'm just, but
We
I'm just,
don't
but I mean,
have
just,
much
but just,
of anything.
you know what I mean? But just, just whatever our assets
We
are.
really
And
don't.
I think that's it, And I think
You
what
know?
we're probably going to end up doing is we're just going to ask you what it is, and then we're going to make our own letter.
I mean,
Because we're going to be adding the housing in the letter. We'll be adding the whatever we have in the way of waterfront assets in the
Right,
letter.
right.
We'll be adding,
Well,
I
we
mean,
have lots,
yeah.
lots of things in
Yeah.
the future. We have a good school.
Sure.
These guys
Yeah,
don't-
yeah, all of that
There's
stuff
a
will be
lot.
added in.
no, they'll let
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Dick. Yeah, so you guys don't have to think of everything. It's just that what are our assets on the waterfront? That's
Oh,
all.
yeah.
That's all.
No, I think that's,
I mean, it could be
it's
just something that simple.
easy to throw, but you gotta
Yeah,
get,
yeah.
we don't have anything right now
Yeah,
to
okay.
give them.
Then
I
tell them
mean,
that.
we have
I don't think.
A dock that we could modify, that's what
Yeah,
we have.
yeah.
I mean, in the harbor, that's not even really, you know.
Yeah. But I mean,
what he's talking about.
yeah.
Coast Guard,
Coast Guard.
But I mean, realistically, is it possible, that
they're upgrading in the future.
the bait shed stuff behind
154 foot.
Weekons, is
Correct.
that
Yeah.
something that you could say
It's on the
it's
news this
available
morning.
now?
I
That,
don't know
we're
if
not
it's
gonna say
any
we're gonna hold it
use.
to you
Well,
for
it's on-
10 years from now.
Well,
but it's
and
available now.
that's the conversation
how are
you
we gonna
also have to
analyze
realize
something?
is that they
Bring the
lease
bigger
it
boat in
for
here.
for nothing,
Just
for a dollar.
continue to-
We don't,
Yeah.
we don't,
I was thinking
I mean,
more
I
along the
understand
lines of
that.
You know.
staying
I understand
here,
that.
And
I guess.
so-
But they
That
bring
was
millions
kinda
into the
my-
community, which is
Exactly.
something that you have to look at.
but as a department
probably not
head,
gonna
it's like,
continue.
okay,
Yeah.
I'd like to lease it for 24 cents a square foot.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Instead of
Rumor
just
I heard,
letting
though,
it
is
sit.
So how do you
Replace them.
stretch,
replace them.
With
The
yeah,
facility.
replace them, and they're
What's that?
planning on
how do you
staying.
stretch
Well,
the
they have,
facility?
That's what we're
what did I
wondering,
hear, they had,
what we even.
they're only
need-
bringing in
would need-
7 or 6
I don't
110s,
know.
7 110s, and they got 10 110s now. So they're gonna put 2 down in Ketchikan because you got the AB line, the Canadian line. They're gonna put 1 up in Prince William Sound, they're gonna put 1 in Juneau. They're gonna put, and then they got 1 more to put someplace.
110 footers.
No, 154s.
Oh,
Yeah.
said one.
Well,
But see,
one thing-
ours was, our 110 here was built in 1990.
It'll
and
be
this
the
is why
last one they
It'll be the very
replace.
last one they replace.
Well, one
And so
thing
that
is
means
we
it
have
could
the
stay
fleet.
for a while
We have a
longer than
fleet here that's,
2022 or whatever
you
the
know,
number is.
That's, and we're centrally located, those are
Yeah.
two big.
Well, and the whole scenario of what's on, yeah, you bet. What's on the radar for the,
Yeah.
for the Coast Guard? Are they doing vessel monitoring anymore? Are they doing homeland security? Or are they literally adding support for?
This is why they're really vague about
Exactly.
where they're headed right now
So-
and what they have funding for and all that
Budget,
stuff, budgets, that they're really vague.
The
about. You can't get any
conversation you
hard
have is
numbers
we
on
are
it.
open for business.
Yeah, yeah.
You let us
Right.
know what you need and we'll see if we can make
Right,
it happen.
Right, right. So then, yeah.
I mean, if there's a push towards acquiring, but that's what the harbor will have to do is go out and acquire land for a Coast Guard place.
Well,
We don't have much,
If it can't use
right,
the existing float.
right. And if
Because
you're,
they're talking about adding 10 people, 10 families.
yeah,
How much more would they possibly need, for 10 more families?
yeah, I mean.
Okay,
and
is there anything else?
the only thing is that condition assessment report, just to talk about that, okay, tag you're it, guys. You've been all sent information. I sent it to you in your email.
Oh, I have to print out that?
Yes, because I'm not gonna print
never
out
happened.
180.
Oh, is this the
I mean, this
conditional use? Is that
there's
conditional use?
Okay, so we have the conditional use that's available. This is just the nuts and bolts of what, of what is there and what they figure near term to replace, like what I was speaking of. So you need to look at that if you care. Then there's also the economic side of it that's been sent to you in your email. I can make copies for things if you want. But that gives this whole idea of, when we start talking about how do we support what's the existing plus all the things on our needs and wants list, how we're going to afford those things. So that's another thing, and so you need to understand and digest, because that's what the assembly's going to look at it and say, okay, we want to adopt this. What does that mean? And then there is probably the one that'll really take you some time is this, you're getting at the same time I am, the waterfront master plan. This is the future. This is, you know, what are we gonna do with PAPKs? What are we gonna do with all of the things out there? And go ahead and mark it up. We're gonna try and bring this to a head here on the 30th of November, to really talk over the big concepts, like, you know, you're spot on, or you have totally, you missed the boat here on these kinds of things. And by the 7th and 8th, they're gonna come back with completed items and give it over to the assembly, and the assembly will give us our marching orders or decide to do with what they want
On the master plan.
with all of the plans, the condition assessment, the waterfront plan, as well as the community conceptual, plan too, so.
There's a huge quantity of stuff here. Can this all be covered in one meeting by the harbor board? And what is the harbor board's responsibility for
This is your
master plan?
individual time now to say yay or nay, and at some point, it's going to get presented to the assembly.
When you say time now, not this meeting, but the next meeting.
No,
Yeah.
and these are things, this is an individual, you guys are the individual, so it's, you get the responsibility of stating your
Critiquing.
claim and critiquing it to the professionals. And if they buy in and change the plan, now is the time.
And that's at a harbor board meeting
No.
with the professionals?
30th?
Well, at the
First- it's the
30th?
first I've heard of it.
Okay, the 30th is when it's gonna go, right now it's kind of in pencil and it can be erased. On the 30th, we're gonna talk about it as as those of us that have been on the planning team. So I'm gonna bring back my comments to Moffett and Nickel and say, you have completely missed the boat on this, or yes, this is spot on. And then we will have the time from the 30th to, I know it's so confusing,
Of
the
November.
7th or 8th of December, when Agnew Beck is going to come back and present all of this to the assembly and to the harbor board and to
Okay.
and to the public.
So what harbor board meeting is the critical one then concerning
The
this?
7th, or on the 7th or 8th.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you want to have it in print or have a one-on-one with Moffett and Nickel between now and the 30th.
Maybe somebody could answer this one question I have.
Mm-hmm.
On Scow Bay, the haul-out ramp needs maintenance, is not suitable for trailer boats. It is also too short for use throughout the tidal cycle. Conflicting use of the uplands and multiple owners' jurisdictions prevents the efficient development of haul-out facilities at Scow Bay. I have no idea what that means. Does
The
anybody know?
multiple is DOT and the fire hall also are vying for that space.
Okay. Why don't they put it in English?
That's a good comment.
That's,
Write that on
normal.
your
Maybe
pen,
ju- maybe
get
if
it
they
to
just
me.
If they list the parties involved, that would make it
well,
clear.
they throw a negative spin on it,
Yeah.
and this is what you got against it. And that's what I got against the first page of the whole thing. I haven't read the details.
Executive summary at the beginning.
The executive summary, it starts out with a negative, what I see as a negative comment. And if you go to page number 3, which is 1, 2, 3,
Uh-huh.
and go halfway down, and that's where it should start. That should be page number 1 in my opinion.
And Jeff is gonna make those comments, and I'm gonna take them back to Moffett Nickel and say, I've heard it from 3 different people.
You're going to make those comments
Well,
separately?
just
Yes.
adjust it.
Yeah. And that's what our charge is, to look through this.
No, you're gonna
and then
give
come
them
up with
to
some
me,
and
ideas
I'm
to
going
change
to
and
be
then-
your
And that will be
spokesman on the
December 7 or
Or
8.
you can give it to
the Glow.
Glow will take
Yeah.
these comments
I will
back.
be your spokesman on the 30th.
Yeah. So you see that
So-
those conflicts are a negative spin on how it's used.
Yeah.
Restate
They
it
use that
maybe the way it should be stated.
same exact sentence for Pappy's Landing.
Exactly.
Conflicting use of jurisdictions, and
Yeah, that's,
so
yeah.
Well, they-
That's
doesn't
what-
make sense.
That's what we need to do
The
is.
next council, what do you call it? They don't need to be confused with negative language. Why present it in a negative light instead of coming out with, this is the way it is right now?
now,
We have
what
multiple-
Let them form
opportunity
their own conclusions.
is there for the
Don't
general
lead 'em.
public to be commenting on these different things? And I kind of thought or hoped that the Harbor Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission would be the people that would be approached by the general public to say what I'm saying right now, or have complaints or suggestions, improvements. Isn't that kind of the mission of groups like the Harbor Board and P&Z? How else can they do this? How else can they participate?
The public.
Yeah.
I think the public's already had their say. Now this is kind of like a draft. They're now handing it to the waterfront, you guys, the waterfront plan,
refine
and saying, is this correct? Is this what we've heard? And if it's not what we've heard, make suggestions, and then we'll
Okay.
correct it. And then, see, now we're counting on you as a general public person to make that correction for us.
Yeah, I just feel uncomfortable knowing what the general public feels on this, and
We'll then put down their
that-
opinion then.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
they surveyed.
This is,
Yeah.
this is what, I mean, they feel like they went out to the general public for the
Meeting
last
after meeting after
whatever,
meeting after meeting.
and this is what they came
Lots
back
of times.
with.
This is their interpretation of the
Yeah,
public comment.
right.
And,
right.
and maybe
Now
they
you're
got
the
it
final.
wrong.
You're the final rule.
You
Is this
are,
what
you're
they've
the
heard?
expert.
Yeah.
So they're giving
Right.
it to you now for a week,
Right.
2 weeks prior. And I just want to reorganize this. I don't want to meet on the 7th and you to say, you got this wrong. I want to give them a heads up to get it right so that when they come back on the 7th, this ongoing conversation, we're not going to start there. We can,
Yeah, I mean, you could say in general, we accept what you guys have done with these changes, because these changes we think you got wrong, or we think you got this wrong. You need to make some changes, and then because then when it comes before us and the general public one more time, it should be a finalized document, and everybody should be on board with it.
So
and
you
and
make
so
notes.
here,
Yeah.
so just to relax you a little bit, what I'm going to do, what I'm hoping for, is that you guys will read this and digest this and mark it up, and then come back to me, kind of, with an organized thought, so that I can go to on the 30th and say the general consensus in among the Harbor Board and staff, probably because I'm right there with you, is that it's a negative feel, or this doesn't make sense, or this is confusing, paragraph whatever is confusing, so that when they come on the 7th, they will have had a week then to change a lot of it, and then be able to really sit down and fine tune it.
You get to edit it now.
That's
You're
our-
the editor.
that's
So
our
these
mission.
are,
Yeah.
this is our mission, is to edit
Yep.
and to,
Okay, if there's anything else, is there anything else you guys wanted to discuss? Any questions about this? We all know what we're supposed to do?
It's a lot happening at once.
So you want
It
to
is.
get a copy to you no later than the 3rd,
yeah.
That's some homework to do.
preferably earlier.
Yeah, that would be great. And primarily it's this. I feel like I personally feel like the economic one is pretty well done. I mean, it's sometimes hard to understand, and it's worth reading so that you can understand
Read it
this.
a couple times.
And then also the condition assessment is actually a really easy read. It's long, it's
Got a lot of
big,
pictures.
but it's a lot of pictures, and it's facts. It's, and then they went through and gave us some real actual numbers. So but it's good to know so that as you digest this, you can kind of understand these are facts that will support this document moving forward. These are, these people took all sorts of ideas that are completely from non-harbor users to harbor users, and came up with this, as well as their expertise as waterfront development people to say X, Y, and Z. Now you're going to refine, you're going to look at it and go, this doesn't make any sense here in Petersburg. I mean, I'm writing it, all sorts of things that are like, and then they're going to adjust this according to the professionals here at the table.
Well, one thing, like I talked to you a little bit about in that financial considerations, there wasn't any mention of the facts of raising the harbor rates may have an effect on who keeps their boats here, and that doesn't reflect, like, are we going to chase a bunch of boats away by doing their plan of raising the harbor rates to the highest in the southeast?
And again, I don't believe that you will find that ever in that portion. I think you'll find it in this. This is where that
Concept is?
How do you ever term that? Yeah, those considerations. That's what you have to think of as you approach this. Now you have the nuts and bolts. If you want to take on the Kupernoff float, here's what it's going to cost. This is all, that's where this is coming in. Here is where it addresses, do you even want to take on the Kupernoff float?
That makes sense. Okay, well, anybody else have any discussions about anything else? So, okay, well, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good point on that, John. I'll look through that too.
Yeah.
I just realized
I gave you all a
can't tie up on
copy.
the end
You
here
all
like
have a
they said.
copy. What?
You can't tie up there like they said we could.
I know.
We all have a copy of it.
Money back.
What?
The ones I got.
I gave that to you
I got
a
those.
while ago.
That's what we got in the
Yeah.
You just need to get it right.
I'm not a happy camper, and I'm not getting a new one because I don't want anything but
Hey, Glo, I think I still
Yeah,
have,
you bet.
I still have a creosote piling tied up to the two piling over at Petro there, the Madison and Madison. I think I still have my piling floating. Anyway, it's a useful piling to make that. Just so you know. Nobody's done anything.
We actually, somebody came to us and asked us about leasing that, and we pretty much, as I pretty much said, that's not a wise thing because of the fuel lines there. And if you're gonna be tying up a float house and you get it lodged underneath and you bust a fuel line. So I think that's being taken off the
Yeah.
table
That's
as
why, but I just want to
a
grab that. I had
leasable
it there just because
space.
because I was thinking about using it there for a while.
Yeah, grab it
So you know I'm
otherwise.
not stealing something.
Yeah, oh, sure.
There'd be too
Take a
much.
hat, everybody.
Are we recorded?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's great. He said, no, they're not that smart.